So when you say I don't trust the IDF, we're both using the IDF.
Well, we know that
One second. Can we just zoom up and make sure we're still actually talking about the thing that we're supposed to be talking about? Like,
either mod feels like it's too off course with more deference towards us than them, then they can step in if things are super unhinged. But if one of us like asks the mods, then we'll just say it like, hey, can a mod resolve this disagreement? We're not getting anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
the problem so far doesn't seem to be like whether or not you guys are unhinged. It seems to be based on you guys seem to get confused on what the other person's position is and what's being argued, because Alex at some points is saying like, hey, this seems like a war crime, and he's presenting information, and then you start arguing against it as though he's actually saying like, we know this is a war crime, whereas then he thinks, Destiny, you're saying the IDF is just in this scenario, and he starts arguing against you as though you're saying the IDF is just, where it seems like you're more so taking a negative position and just saying we don't have enough information to make a claim either way sometimes. So I think at the beginning of these, a lot of times it's probably best for y'all to actually state positions at some points, because the farther you get into the weeds, just trying to figure out what the information is, the more you guys start making assumptions about what the other person's position is. So I think at times,
it's up to Destiny. If you want to do opening statements, I don't mind. I mean, I was just thinking we get right into it, but your call.
Yeah,
you have to present the information first, because he needs to see.
Well, that's exactly what I was planning on doing now. I literally have it.
You have to present it first.
Okay, sure. Okay, so let me know when you guys are ready.
Yeah, I'm ready whenever.
Are we
is my volume fine over here?
Yeah, yours is good.
Yep.
And is there actually like a clear topic for this? Is there some specific claim that you guys are disagreeing about, or is it just general?
Yeah. So there's two things. Hopefully we can cover, but we're going to start off with whether Israel is committing war crimes with specific incidents, and I'm going to show a broad pattern of why I think it's a systemic thing. But first, we're just going to be going through separate, like, noteworthy incidents and talking about them and seeing if we can come to some kind of agreement on what happened and then what it means. And then the second thing, again, I don't know if we're going to get to this or not, but I would like to talk about the siege, specifically electricity. But I'd rather, I want to focus first on the specific incidents because I think it's the most interesting.
Yeah, and with the war crimes thing, is that one where you're making the claim that it's true and Destiny's agnostic, or is it like you're saying it's true and he's saying it's false?
Well, it's up to Destiny to answer, but I think my opinion from the last one is that Destiny was mostly negative. I was actually watching back some of the comments you did on your end when I was muted, and it seems like you were kind of, I don't know if you were being sarcastic though or not, but you were making that claim it was like Pallywood or whatever, that it's like all set up and shit like that, which is certainly not my claim. Yeah, I don't know how much of that is like trolling or not, but so it seems like Destiny's position, at least to me, is somewhere between agnostic and negative.
Yeah, so my position is basically just that I don't believe that if we're talking about a thing and we're calling it a war crime, I don't think that the video footage that we generally see is adequate to establish that, basically. Yeah. I'm not saying that there's no war crime happening. I just don't think that what we've seen, I don't think it's enough to jump to that.
Well, we can also talk about percentages, like whether you think it's most likely it's a war crime, most likely it's not, somewhere in the middle. I think we can also, I don't think there's any way to tell 1,000% for sure, but we can look at probabilities and see kind of where we're at and see if there's a big disagreement. If I'm saying 60 and you're saying 50, then there's really not much debate.
Yeah, are you currently just agnostic on it? Also, I mean, I guess I'm asking that about whatever position you're taking in the debate. Maybe in reality you have a stronger view, but whatever you're planning to defend, like, are you just defending agnosticism? Or
I don't think that's Destiny's position.
So basically my issue is I don't think people understand like what exactly goes into determining if a thing is a war crime or not. And I think that when people point to video footage, I think that they make a lot of assumptions that they are ungrounded, that they're ungrounded assumptions. They can't make that assumption. And people will speak with a pretty high amount of confidence that like, well, this is most likely a war crime, where even if what is happening is what we're seeing on video, and even if their assumptions are right, it actually wouldn't even be a war crime. Although we haven't gotten that deep into the conversation yet. But I mean, it's going to depend on the particular thing we're looking at.
Let me just ask two clarifying questions just to see where we're at. So do you believe that Israel is committing or has committed war crimes during this war?
I believe that individual soldiers almost certainly have committed war crimes. That would be my guess, like just by the numbers.
You don't think it's a systemic thing?
Systemic as in like a matter of policy of the IDF? No.
Well, systemic could be just a culture of just like not giving a shit, right? So it's like don't ask, don't tell. You get to do shit. No one really gives a fuck. That could also be a culture.
Yeah, I would also say no. I don't think so.
Okay. So there we go. I think the positions are pretty clearly laid out.
Well, wait, just to be
And
clear,
Alex-
are you
Yeah,
sorry, are
go
you
ahead.
saying you think those things are false, or are you saying you're just not convinced they're true?
For the purposes of this conversation, I don't know
Yeah.
if that matters, but realistically, I'm going to have to be agnostic. All of this is going to be inductive, and there's evidence in the future that could come out that would change my position. But right now, I don't think that the evidence has been presented. But it could be that tomorrow something leaks, and it's like, oh, look, like actually this guy said this or did this, and there's no reason or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's clearly a war crime. I just don't think that the arguments have been made to justify it yet. I don't know if that evidence is out there, but I'm going to have some degree of agnosticism, I think, to every inductive claim I make, by definition. So that might be repetitive, but yeah.
Well, your position is, like you said, no, that you don't think Israel's IDF's policy or it's a systemic thing when it comes to war crimes. So
Yeah, I
that's
don't
not-
believe so because I haven't seen any evidence of it, and I could imagine that if it was a policy, I would see way different actions. So it's hard for me to imagine there being a policy of that with
Okay.
what we've seen.
Well,
Yeah.
fair enough. So, so you guys ready?
Well, real quick, Alex, yesterday you did say that like you were presenting one thing, and he was asking whether or not this one specific thing was a war crime, and you were saying you made it sound like this one doesn't necessarily have to be by itself, but because there's a pattern of behavior elsewhere, I'm more likely to believe that this one is.
No, I wasn't saying that. You're not too far off, but no. What I was saying is that I was clearly saying it is a war crime, but then when asked, like, we were trying to figure out what the intent was, like why it happened. And so I was saying the reason I'm more likely to lean towards a non-favorable, speculation on Israel's behalf is because there's a pattern of them doing the same thing. So I was right on board saying this is a war crime, and this seems like a war crime. But then we were trying to figure out the motivations and like what happened, because there's always some info we don't know. So the big one yesterday was were the people given a warning? What was their, how many warnings were they given, right? So that's kind of what things we were speculating on. I was just trying to
Right.
make
So
a point.
you're more likely to believe that it's a war crime because of a pattern of behavior, but you're still willing to present each thing by itself and say that this by itself can stand, and I can present this as a war crime based on the evidence that we have currently, correct?
Yeah, generally.
We
yes.
don't need the pattern to. Okay, good.
Well, I would need to show the pattern to prove that it's a systemic thing, right? Because one-off incidents always
Right.
happen. Me and Destiny agree that there's some soldiers that committed war crimes, but my argument's a bit further than that. But yeah, I don't know. Are you just?
I just want to make sure that I'm clear on the overall context. So sorry to be repetitive, but just to be clear, so the proposition you guys are disagreeing about, it's that Israel is systematically committing war crimes, and Alex is saying yes, and Destiny is agnostic. That's the debate, yeah?
Destiny is not agnostic. He said no, he doesn't think that's happening.
Well, that's compatible with being agnostic. Not thinking it's true doesn't mean he thinks it's false.
He's saying there's
you're
not enough
agnostic
information
on
to
that.
say
It seems like they're pretty.
We also should just distinguish between whatever his position actually is and whatever position he's taking in the discussion, right? He might have a stronger view, but just want to put.
Well,
you on
I'd
the hot
rather
seat.
Destiny
That's
take
true
the
too. I mean, like for the
position
discussion, I'm generally going to be agnostic. I just don't feel like Alex is presenting enough evidence to support his view. In practice, if I was having a broader conversation, then I would take a stronger negative or a higher affirmative that there are no war crimes. I guess, yeah.
Well, I think it would make more sense for you to take the position that you really believe. Obviously, being agnostic in a debate gives you a massive edge. So, I mean, like I've seen you.
Well, hold on, wait. Being agnostic shouldn't give me an edge. If you're proving a positive claim, whether I'm agnostic or contrary to your position, it shouldn't matter.
So it's a lot easier to be agnostic because you don't have to provide any evidence. You just get to question the other person's evidence.
If you're making a positive claim, I don't have to provide any evidence. I just have to question your own. I don't
Right,
have to
but
have.
if
I don't have to give a
have enough
counterclaim.
evidence
I'm
already
providing
to
you
make the
proof,
claim.
and you're saying that, oh, I disagree with this, right? You're disagreeing with the proof I give. If you're negative, then you would have to basically show some proof.
No, I wouldn't.
Hey,
We just have to investigate your proof. So let's say if you made the positive claim that Dan killed Emily, and I say, okay, well, what is your proof for that? And you say, well, yesterday there was a full moon. I don't have to give you counter evidence. I can just say like, well, no, I think that this evidence doesn't prove the crime that Dan killed Emily.
You're overgeneralizing. So, for example, it would be more something like, hey, here's an Amnesty International article where they said that this was a war crime. Here's another journalist who said it's a war crime. And you're saying, I disagree with their interpretation of events. At that point, I'm providing proof. you're not providing any proof. So I'll be like, okay, well, what's the evidence that these guys are wrong?
You don't need evidence that they're wrong. I just need to talk about your evidence and say whether I believe it supports the argument that you're making. I don't need counter evidence. I just
your evidence, or say that you don't have enough evidence, and then therefore his position is true. So his agnostic position would then be correct because you don't have enough information to prove your position. If you are making the positive position, you should have enough information already to prove that.
Yeah, but I think it's a little deceptive because that's not actually Destiny's real position in life. Like, why would you want to argue a position that he's not 100% in? Like, why not just argue our real positions?
Well, this is essentially
you're doing
the
this
position,
case by case,
but
he doesn't know each case by case that you're going to present. So as you present them, he's going to
no, I understand he would
make a determination based on the argument that you're making.
Yeah, I understand he would be agnostic on each case, especially if he's not familiar with the case. I get that. But when it comes to the overall argument, which is not that, hey, my overall argument is not, hey, there are cases of people committing war crimes, right? My case is that, hey, this seems like it's a systemic thing where at the very least, it's a culture of don't ask, don't tell. If Destiny thinks no, I think it's most likely that the IDF does not have that policy. I think they take this stuff very seriously. Then that's the actual disagreement. And I think we should just argue the positions that we really have rather than like kind of softening our positions.
I don't think there's anything deceptive about it. I think it's just a matter of what kind of conversation you want to have. Like, Destiny is right to say that regardless of whether he's got a burden of proof or not, stopping your point from going through might not require him to make his own point. But obviously in the case where he has his own point to make, where he's making a positive claim, he has more work to do. He has to also like establish his case. I understand why you'd say that's more work.
If we go back to the conversation like yesterday, for example, or sorry, 2 days ago that we had, Destiny wasn't just saying, I'm not sure about this. He was saying, doesn't seem like the IDF would do that. This source is wrong. IDF, but he was making some...
I get you. I get that he has a leaning. I understand he has a
leaning,
leaning,
but... some statements, like definitive statements about the IDF in general.
I think you guys just have to decide between the two of you what kind of discussion you want to have. It sounds like Destiny wants to play agnostic on it. And it sounds like you want him to use his actual position. I don't think there's anything deceptive. It sounds like you guys want to have two different conversations.
Well, I don't know how I can make the positive claim that somebody's not doing something. Technically, that's like I'm almost being asked to prove a negative, right? I don't know if I can theoretically do that.
Yeah, of course you can. Like, for example, if I ask you, is it raining? And your position is no, you can prove that by showing me the weather forecast. You can absolutely
not even. He's saying that Alex could say that they are unjust in this scenario, and you could make the positive claim that they are just in that scenario.
Well, but we're not talking about just. We're talking about whether or not a particular crime is asking. For the analogy to work, it would be like Alex asking me, like, is it raining anywhere on the planet? And it's like, well, if you give me the positive claim of that, you can easily prove that by going, look, here's rain. I go, okay, I believe you. Or look, here's a place where it's not raining. I go, well, your evidence isn't good enough. But then if you ask me, okay, well, prove that it's not raining anywhere. Well, I don't know if I can show you every single place on the planet to prove that it's not raining anywhere. That would be a very extreme statement
that no one would ever actually make.
Well, yeah, but I can't prove that every single IDF soldier is not committing a war crime. I don't have the accounting for it.
If I'm asking that, if I show you evidence, like pretty definitive evidence, or at least what I believe is very definitive evidence, that you, at that point, if you say, hey, no, the information in this article is wrong. This did not happen, or this did not happen the way they're describing. I think at that point, it would be fair if you provide some counter evidence instead of just saying, I don't think this is true, or this doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, give me an example of what that counter evidence could look like.
Sure. So the first thing I'm going to get into is the Israeli hostage incident, since you mentioned you didn't know about that last time. So essentially, IDF killed 3 Israeli captured hostages. I'm going to show you evidence of that. If you're going to say, well, I don't think it actually went down that way. I don't think they were actually shot by the IDF, right? Well, then at that point, you would have to provide proof that they were shot by someone else. If I'm giving you direct proof that, hey, they were shot by IDF, IDF literally admitted this, and you're saying, no, I don't think that happened. That's a pretty extreme example. But you would then at a point have to provide some proof for why what I'm saying is wrong.
Okay, so if I use the term mens rea, does that mean anything? Or...
I think mens rea, what means intent, or what is
yeah, so the disagreement that we're having primarily is not a factual disagreement about who did what. The disagreement is one of state of mind. So My understanding is, I don't think it's been countered by anybody, that those 3 hostages were shot by the IDF. The question isn't going to be, were they shot by the IDF? The question is going to be, did the IDF engage in such wanton, reckless behavior that they killed 3 hostages that it should have been easily avoidable in terms of killing them? Or was it a chaotic battlefield environment where tragically 3 hostages were killed, but the circumstances are understandable, even if ideally we would mitigate them in the future? Like, the question is this evidence of a malicious army, or is it evidence of a chaotic battlefield where they're being induced to make certain mistakes? That's the actual disagreement. It's over the intention of what's...
If we just go back to the debate we had on Saturday, when we were heavily disagreeing about whether the people were given a warning or not, right? We're both speculating because we don't have that information. I would say, you were saying that it's almost entirely, it's extremely likely they were given a warning or even multiple warnings, right? That was your position. It's highly likely they were given a warning, right? We don't know that. I don't know that for a fact.
True. Well, hold on, real quick. Now we're debating something totally different. This is just about like how well we can inductively assume a certain fact about our conversation, but it's fundamentally different than the question about the hostage thing. Like, yeah, there are going to be some assumptions that we're making about videos we're watching. Like, we're assuming that everybody wasn't transported there immediately. We're assuming that nobody's on drugs or they're all on LSD. We're assuming it's not in VR. Like, there's going to be some assumptions that we have to make because we're not watching 10 hours of video footage. We're watching like minutes of clips. But I think that's a fundamentally different question than like proving the intent of somebody over like the assumption we're making in a video.
Well, yeah, the intent is different. You're right. The intent, no one can really prove. I mean, or at least it's very hard to prove. You have to use circumstantial
No, it's not. We can. Well, yeah, but I mean, we can figure out. We can ascertain intent. This is what criminal courts do all the time.
Yeah, sure. We can try to guess an intent, but we're still at least somewhat speculating, right? But yeah, we can use circumstantial evidence and all of that, and maybe witness testimonies. But I'm just talking about factual things right now. Like, if you're gonna, like, you have disagreed with me multiple times about facts that I've presented. You said that, hey, no, I don't think the source is legit, or hey, I
to be clear, I've never said like I don't think the source is legit. I'm just disagreeing with the way that it's being deployed, or I'm disagreeing with the way that you're phrasing it. Like, when you say a video is verified, in your mind, it seems like when you say, well, this video is verified, it seems like what you're saying is all of the extrapolations that I'm making from this video are verified. So if NBC News shows a video of 3 hostages getting killed, and they say that, well, we think that, they killed these 3 hostages for no reason. They were civilians and they were killed because of IDF policy, and they verified the video. In your mind, you're like, oh, well, everything they just said is true. But that's not true. The verified video just means that the video is authentic. We don't know if they're civilians. We don't know if they were killed by policy of the IDF. We don't know why they were shot. We just know that the video is real. That's it. That's what verifying a video means.
I would never argue that, because that would be just the BBC or whatever you mentioned would be just speculating that. I'm talking about, well, when I say verified, in the specific case we're talking about yesterday, it means that they looked at 2 different videos, made sure they were talking about the same thing. They interviewed witnesses, they hired ballistics experts, and with all of that, that's how they come up with a set of events and the facts, right? So that's what I mean by verification, is the story that they're writing, not the stuff they're speculating, right? I'm not going to talk about what the article is speculating. Oh, we think this is because there's not a ceasefire. I don't care about speculation. I'm talking about facts that are written in the article. Neither you or I were there, right? But if they said, again, there's ballistics experts that were hired, they look at satellite imagery, and that's how they verified the story that's being shared, that's pretty strong evidence. And then if you're going to say, well, no, this doesn't add up, I think that unless you can point out a critical flaw in that, it would be only fair if you're disagreeing with the facts that you provide some counter evidence.
Okay. I mean, we can go through the...
yeah, we can just... Yeah, I don't want to...
We'll go through a thing and we can figure it out, yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm down to just go with it. Okay, so let's just start off with the Israeli hostage incident. Do you get a chance to look into that, or you just...
Yeah, I did a bit, yeah.
Yeah, so essentially, IDF killed 3 Israeli hostages. They had their shirts off, and one of them had a white flag. Do you agree with that statement? That's true?
I don't know if they had their shirts off or not, but I know that the IDF killed 3 hostages.
Yeah, they did have their shirts off. I mean, if you want, I can send you the article, but it's not that important, but they did have their shirts off. It doesn't really matter that much, so
okay.
We don't have to quibble over that. But yeah, one of them had so we agreed that there were 3 escaped Israeli hostages, and one of them had a white flag, right?
Possibly, yeah. I don't know if all of them had white flags or not, but somebody did, yeah.
Okay, so let me just send you the article so you can definitively agree with me. How do I do this in...
In Discord, you can actually, above our room, there's a little bubble to the, like, where it says Destiny's Room, and click the right.
I'll just share my screen. It'll be fast.
Well, no, wait, you gotta link it here. You have to link it. I have to be able to read it. Just sharing a screen is kind of...
Read both.
But you're really disagreeing on the facts, or you're not convinced of the facts I outline? I mean, this is like well established.
No, hold on. It's not that I'm disagreeing or not. I said I'll agree with your point here. I don't even think it matters much to either argument, so I don't care that much at this point. But if you want, you can share the article and then we can have a similar foundation of fact here, yeah.
Sure. So how do I share it with you directly?
Just
on the sign. Oh, with him directly.
Or just in the chat, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't mind you guys looking at it. So how do I do it? What do I...
Where it says Destiny's room, where you clicked on the room, there's a bubble on the right above it.
Oh, okay, I see it.
Destiny.
Got it. Open chat. Okay. Yep, gonna share it now. Oh, fuck. The fucking ads. Okay, there we go. I think this is it. Okay, here it is.
Mm-hmm. Also, can you unshare your screen because it's fucking my camera layout a little?
Sure, no problem. Stops. Yeah. Okay. So you don't want to take your time to read this, but I promise you that everything I'm saying is factual, but you can take a look at it. So the three things, again, just to be clear, three things I'm establishing is that number one, there were 3 escaped Israeli hostages. Number 2 is that one of them had a white flag. And number 3, they were killed by the IDF. Those are the 3 factual statements I'm making based on the article and other articles like this. And also IDF's own statements.
What was the last one?
Sorry, what?
All right, thank you.
What was the last claim?
Look at Destiny's guy's own
similar
shot.
tragedies. Okay. Okay, so it seems like, as reported by CNN,
also, if you scroll down, you'll see the IDF actually like admits all of this. They're not like hiding it or denying it.
Okay, an IDF official said the trio had emerged from a building tens of meters away from a group of Israeli troops. They were shirtless and waving a white flag, according to the official, who spoke to journalists on the condition of anonymity to speak freely about an ongoing investigation. At least one soldier felt threatened and opened fire, killing 2 of the men immediately. The third was wounded and ran back inside the building. The Israeli unit overheard a cry for help in Hebrew, at which time the brigade commander ordered his troops to stop shooting. However, there was another burst of gunfire. The third hostage died later. Their shooting while waving a white flag was in violation of IDF rules of engagement, the official added. It's unclear which hostage survived initially, and then he was killed. The official added. Israeli soldiers did not anticipate that they would be approached by hostages, but instead thought that they would find them either in a building, in a tunnel, or handcuffed, according to the IDF spokesperson. Okay, so I agree with this.
We agree with that. So, question, why do you think they're waving a white flag, if you had to guess?
Are you asking me why these 3 particular people were, or what the assumption would be if somebody is waving a white flag on the battlefield?
No, these 3 specific people.
My guess would be it's because I think that it's the best way to signal that they're hostages or something.
But why are they worried? Why are they worried about being shot?
Because they're probably they're in an active battlefield?
Okay, so, right, which essentially implies that they know that it's possible they will get shot, even though they're Israelis.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's no need for that. They can just walk with open arms to the IDF soldiers. So they're concerned about their safety.
Yeah.
And they want to show they're not a threat.
Okay.
And they still got shot.
Okay.
Because the soldier felt threatened.
Okay.
So don't you think that the fact, like in this situation, that these 3 Israelis, who probably are more familiar with Israel, probably most of them served in the IDF, because you have to when you're 18 to 22, unless you're like super religious. So most of them probably served in the IDF. They're quite familiar with the way IDF runs. Don't you think the fact that they're waving a white flag indicates that even Israelis know that the IDF can be trigger happy?
I'm pretty sure every Israeli would say that. Yeah, that in an active battlefield where the enemy utilizes human shields and also fake surrenders and engages in other acts of perfidy, that you can get shot. Sure, yeah.
But if they're not, for example, if they don't think the IDF is, let's just say loose with who they shoot, then there's no need for them to have a white flag. They would just be, hey, I escaped, blah, blah, blah. If they think they're safe.
No, nobody would ever think that in Israel. No, nobody would ever think that if they just run waving their arms that they would be safe. Not a single person that lives in that territory would think that.
Right, because they understand how the IDF works, and they know that...
No, because they understand how Hamas works, that Hamas utilizes human shields, that Hamas utilizes suicide bombers, and that Hamas doesn't fight in uniform. So just because somebody's waving their arms at you doesn't mean that they're a non-combatant. Nobody would assume that ever.
Yeah, but it wasn't the Hamas that killed these people. It was the IDF.
I didn't say it was the Hamas that killed these people. I said that nobody would assume that if I just run with my arms out, I'll be safe, because on the battlefield, people utilize tactics like this in order to gain an advantage. Hamas does against the IDF. So if you were trying to run to the IDF, you wouldn't assume, oh, look, I'm just running like a civilian. I'm sure that they'll think I'm totally cool or fine. People in Mosul and Afghanistan and Iraq didn't assume this for the American army, because anybody could be a combatant at any point in time.
Okay. Do you think this was a justified shooting?
Based on everything that I've read about it, no. And I think the IDF spokesperson at the top of the article here even said that this was against their rules of engagement. So it sounds like this wasn't a justified shooting. I mean, I don't know what their overall investigation said afterwards, but...
Was this an indiscriminate shooting?
Maybe? I guess. You could probably say that, sure.
So then was it a war crime?
Was this particular act a war crime? I'm not sure. I don't know.
Indiscriminate shooting means failing to distinguish between civilian and military targets.
I would say there's a good possibility of it.
Well, if it's an indiscriminate shooting, then it's also a war crime because they failed to distinguish between civilians and military.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it's possible. I don't know what the overall situation on the ground was aside from the 2 paragraphs here. Is there a finding of a larger investigation?
With this, not that I know. It seems you hear a lot that the IDF is doing an investigation, but you don't often see the results of these investigations. It seems like a lot of them don't really go anywhere. But
have you searched to see if there's a published for an investigation?
I mean, I searched the story pretty closely, and I couldn't really find anything. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but when I was doing a look at this whole story and trying to confirm from different sources, I didn't see like the publishings of investigation.
Okay, if you want, we can read this real quick, because apparently they did publish something about this on the IDF site itself.
Sure. Okay.
The findings of the investigation into the circumstances of the deaths of 3 hostages from IDF fire. The findings of the investigation into the circumstances of the death of 3 hostages from IDF fire were presented this week to the Chief of General Staff, LTG Herzi Halevi, by the commander of the Southern Command, MG Major General, I don't know, Yaron Finkelman. The findings are as follows. On December 15th, 2023, during intense days of fighting in Shijaya, an IDF soldier fired towards 3 figures identified as threats and hit 2 of the hostages who were killed. The 3rd figure fled. The commander gave orders to hold fire in order to identify the 3rd figure. After approximately 15 minutes, the battalion commander heard shouts in Hebrew of help, and they are shooting at me, and gave additional orders to hold fire, calling out in Hebrew, "Come toward us." The figure emerged from the building towards the forces. 2 soldiers who did not hear the order due to noise from a nearby tank shot at and killed the 3rd hostage. From the investigation and analysis of the findings and aerial footage of the area, it was revealed that the hostages were walking shirtless, and one of them was waving a white flag, standing at a point with limited visibility relative to the position of the soldier that fired the shot. At the end of the event, after clearing and scanning the area, a suspicion arose that the individuals were hostages. The bodies were transferred for examination in Israel, after which was confirmed that they were 3 Israeli hostages. Prior to the event, on December 10th, 2023, a note with the Hebrew writing "help" was found at the exit of a tunnel, a terror tunnel in the Shijaya, I don't know how to pronounce that area. Alongside the note, an ID of a Hamas operative was found. The note was examined, but no information emerged linking it to the presence of hostages in the area. The forces in the field considered it as an attempt by Hamas to deceive and lure the forces into an ambush. Additionally, on December 10th, 2023, troops in the Golani Reconnaissance Battalion operated in the Shijaya area and operated in several buildings to locate terrorists and weapons. The forces broke into a building and sent in a dog from the Oket's K9 unit for explosives detection. A battle ensued in which the terrorists shot at the dog and towards the forces from within the building. The forces returned fire toward the sources of the shooting and eliminated the terrorists in the area. During the battle conducted by the Golani Reconnaissance Battalions, the forces commanders heard cries for help in Hebrew, "help" and "hostage" from within the building. The forces interpreted this as a terrorist deception attempt. The engineering unit operating with the force identified the building as suspected of being rigged with explosives, and therefore the force refrained from entering. Some of the forces heard the cries, but suspected it was an attempt by the terrorists to draw the forces inside the building to harm them, as had happened in the past. Based on these suspicions, the forces exited the building and directed fire from helicopters and tanks towards the building in the area. In these strikes, 5 terrorists trying to escape were assumed to have been killed. From scans conducted in the building after the shooting incident on December 15th, a camera was found on the dog from the Oket's K9 unit that was killed. The findings indicate that the hostages were in the building where the forces operated, and the terrorists who were killed were those holding the hostages. In the footage found on the dog's camera, the hostages are not seen, but their voices are heard crying for help. At the end of the battle, after the terrorists holding the hostages were killed, the hostages likely fled the building. On the morning of December 14th, signs with the writing SOS and "help." 3 hostages were identified by drone footage on a building 200 meters from where the hostages were killed. Near the building, blue barrels commonly found in rigged areas, which the forces encountered in the Shejaya area, were spotted, thus it was suspected as a trap. Okay, so then it sounds like in this case, according to the IDF's explanation...
Go to summary by the Chief of Staff. That's the part.
Okay. The Chief of General Staff concluded that it was a difficult event with very difficult outcomes. The IDF failed in its mission to rescue the hostages in this event. The entire chain of command feels responsible for this difficult event, regrets the outcome, and shares in the grief of the families of the 3 hostages. The Chief of Staff determined that the hits on the hostages could have been prevented. Alongside this, the Chief of Staff clarified that there was no malice in the event, and the soldiers carried out the right action to the best of their understanding of the event at that moment. Okay. Do you want to read more of this?
Yeah, I don't think this really changes anything. You don't need malice to have indiscriminate shooting. It's just a failure of distinguishing between military and civilian targets, which is clearly what happened there.
I don't know.
There's
Well,
no,
I mean, it sounds like they're trying to distinguish between military and civilian targets, but in this case, they got it wrong.
well, it seems like the soldiers thing was literally I felt threatened.
Yeah, but that, I mean,
You can make that literally argument about every single possible shooting during a war. I felt threatened. I felt a threat, so I had to shoot that guy.
Okay, so if I can't use any of their explanation, then you auto win by default. We can move on to anything you want. If I can't use any of the explanations that they give for why they acted the way they acted, and you're going to insert it yourself, then do you think it's unreasonable for them to feel threatened in this battlefield?
No, I don't think it's unreasonable, but I think feeling threatened is not an excuse to shoot someone wearing a white flag.
How do you determine if you should shoot somebody or not? If it's not by ascertaining if they're a threat.
Well, you would probably ask them. You would say, "Hey, stop! Who are you guys?" Blah blah blah. You wouldn't just go with like, "Oh, I feel threatened." Everyone feels it's a war zone. You're going to be feel threatened at all times. Obviously, it's dangerous, but again, that does not give you just because you felt threatened. You have to do more. If you want to distinguish between military and civilian targets, you probably have to do a little bit, just a tiny amount of investigation, which could be things like, hey, stop for a second. This is an active combat area. Who are you guys? Do you have any ID? Okay, don't move. We're going to have our soldiers pat you down. Like shit like that, right? That's how you would distinguish between military and civilian targets. You wouldn't just shoot first and then ask questions later.
I don't know if in an active battle zone, I don't know if you have the opportunity to ID and do a full questionnaire of every single person you come across. I don't know if that's the standard that any military has ever adhered to. I doubt the IDF adheres to it. I'm sure that in more secured areas where things are more under control, they might be able to do that. But from the reading of this report, it sounds like this was literally an active battle zone, that you've got helicopters shooting at this building. You had
battle zone, or pretty much all of Gaza.
That's not true.
There's fighting anywhere. Okay,
really, in every single part from meter to meter on all of Gaza, there's fighting right now.
What I'm saying, I'm talking generalities.
Well, I'm not talking in generalities. I'm talking very specifically in this field right now, or not right now, but as this was happening, there was an active battle, active operations going on.
Is Gaza a war zone right now?
Is what?
Is most of Gaza a war zone right now?
I don't know what you mean by war zone.
Like an area where soldiers can feel threatened, where there's at least combat happening once in a blue moon. Or
in most of Gaza right now? No, I don't think so.
Okay. So North Gaza, you think, is just chill right now?
I believe so. I could be wrong, but I don't think there are a lot of active combat operations happening in northern Gaza right now. Do you think there are?
I think there's a lot of people that are being shot in North Gaza.
That's not what any of what we just said means. Let me restate. Do you think that in northern Gaza are there a lot of active IDF military operations happening right now?
What do you mean when you say military operation? Do we include just policing the streets and keeping safety?
Nope.
For the chiefs.
And I don't even know if the IDF are policing streets in northern Gaza. Is that happening right now? I thought they were focused on military operations in Khan Yunis right now.
Right. Well, if, for example, they've said that a lot of the Hamas fighters have returned to North Gaza. So if their goal is to kill Hamas, then, of course, they will be achieving that goal. Like, they're not going to just let Hamas just take over North Gaza again. Of course, they have troops there.
Okay. Do you think that all of North Gaza is a battlefield in the way that this particular environment was a battlefield when these hostages were killed?
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they're equivalent.
Okay, well, but that's what the question is about. We're not asking whether or not the entirety of the Gaza Strip is kind of unsafe right now. I'm asking if
it's not unsafe. It's extremely unsafe. No one would ever go to Gaza.
That's not what we're talking about at all. I'm asking, was it right now, from what I'm reading here, the sounds of this, and maybe there's something else we can read that shows that it's not the case. Right now, it sounds like this was an active battle. There were people actively shooting at a building that was like within 100 meters or whatever of these soldiers, that active combat operations were happening right here with soldiers that were guns that were shooting at people and returning fire from other people. This is an active scenario that was unfolding.
Let me just grant you that premise, because I don't think it changes my arguments. Let me just grant you that, everything you're saying right now. So then if you're in active combat zone and you quote unquote feel threatened, then are you justified in shooting anyone you see?
Probably not, but it's probably going to influence how we ascertain the reasonableness of a soldier at a particular point in time. That if a U.S. soldier right now was walking in the streets in the United States and a civilian popped up and the soldier turned and shot him, we'd be like, this is insane. You can't. This is so indiscriminate. It's unbelievable. But if there was a soldier deployed in an active combat zone where they're fighting like crazy and like a civilian popped up right next to the soldier and he turned and he shot him, then I don't think that would be considered a war crime. I don't know if the soldier could have reasonably ascertained or discriminated a threat at this particular point in time.
It's analogous because these people didn't just pop out behind the IDF soldiers.
No, it sounds like they literally popped out of a building that was being actively fired upon, that 5 other terrorists were inhabiting, that they didn't have.
Which the IDF knew had hostages, and they
Wait,
are
did
escaped
they?
hostages. I believe so. Isn't that what you read in the article?
I don't think so. I thought it said multiple times in the article I didn't believe any hostages were in here. They thought all the hostages were either in terror tunnels or in other places. They didn't think there were any hostages.
Let me just grant you that premise, because I don't recall that specific part. Let me just grant you that. Okay, let's say they didn't know there were hostages there. So 3 people run out. They know in general there are hostages that are trapped in Gaza. So that's a general fact that they all know.
Wait. If we're going to list general facts, so you say they know there are hostages in general, right? We agree with that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you also agree that they know that Hamas will pretend to be hostages to fight them?
Yeah, I'm sure
Okay.
that's true.
Okay.
Right. So okay, let's just grant all that. So 2 people walk out of a building holding a white flag. And you're saying in that specific situation it would be justified to shoot them because you feel threatened?
I don't think it would be justified. The IDF themselves said that there could have been a different chain of procedures here.
Why are you even disagreeing with me on this thing? You're saying it's not
Because you're
justified.
asking me if it was a war crime, if there's like a huge failure in distinction here that's like rising to a level of like indiscriminate attacking of a civilian population. That doesn't seem to be the case here. It seems like they felt like there was a threat. They didn't know there were any hostages in this building. There were 5 other terrorists that they killed, and then people popped out. And it sounds like this was a tragic mistake and it shouldn't have happened. But was it because of a trigger-happy population that was just so keen to shoot on whether it was a civilian or a military person? Doesn't seem to be the case here, given at least this explanation of events.
Why do you think a soldier shot the hostages?
Probably he might have thought it was a Hamas operative. I don't know, my guess. Somebody with a suicide bomb or somebody was trying to escape or something, maybe? I'm not sure.
Well, he said that he felt threatened.
Okay.
So he felt threatened, right?
Well, but it also says in the IDF's report that he didn't have a clear view of the guy that he ended up shooting at, right?
That still wouldn't justify it.
Well, no, but it might explain the threatened part more.
No weapons, white flag.
Alex, your definition is just a failure to identify an enemy combatant. If they take reasonable steps to identify them and get it wrong and then kill them, is that still indiscriminate to you? Because according to your definition, it
No, it's not. I mean, there's a little room for interpretation, but no. Indiscriminate just means like just either entirely or at the very least significantly just failing to identify the distinguish the difference between civilian and military targets. So it means essentially we're just going to shoot
in a reasonable way based on the scenario.
Yeah, so the scenario would matter. So, for example, if there was a really good reason why they thought that, they should be threatened, like maybe these people had a gun, right? But, they're still escaped hostages, then that would probably not be indiscriminate shooting because there's a legitimate threat. But if you see 3 people waving a white flag, and then you still shoot them, then that's pretty clear indiscriminate shooting. And if we agree that's indiscriminate shooting, that means that it's essentially a war crime because they failed to distinguish or didn't take reasonable steps to distinguish between a civilian and a military target.
I guess when we're asking principally, like what's happening, the soldiers that are shooting, what's going on in this particular event? If they have a building that is accurately identified as a military target, which it was, and that there are militants inside that building, which there were, and then you've got Air Force, you've got like helicopters and shit, I think, shooting at this building and then them returning fire, which did happen. And then people come running out of the building. Like, I agree that, or it seems like maybe they could have done something to avoid this particular situation, but is the soldier really doing a, what?
Go ahead, I was just making a
Is the
joke.
soldier
Yeah,
really failing here hardcore at distinguishing between a military and a civilian target such that they're just recklessly shooting at anything? Or do you have like an active building, what?
Absolutely. They shot their own citizens who were waving a white flag.
Do you understand that? Wait. Do you understand when you said that statement had absolutely no connection logically to anything I just said? The outcome doesn't matter here. The outcome's not relevant to what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we're talking about, yeah, I know, I was just making a general statement. But yeah, generally, if you see someone wearing, like according to international law, the white flag is one of the most accepted symbols of surrender. It protects both civilians and combatants from any attack, according to experts. Disregard for this insignia can be investigated as a war crime. So even according to international law, it protects even apparently combatants. Now, I probably would not.
That's not true. It's called perfidy. You cannot use.
Do you want the article?
I don't need the article. I'm very familiar with all of this. If you can use white flags, you can dress in civilian garbs and stuff to impersonate somebody surrendering and then fight from there. You're supposed to respect this if you're an advancing military, but if you've got reason to believe that the enemy is engaging in, I think it's perfidy, I don't know how you pronounce it. I think it's perfidy. Then obviously you can conduct yourself accordingly. But a white flag doesn't give you carte blanche to do whatever you want and assume you're not going to be shot at, especially in a battlefield where the enemy is abusing white flags.
I'm saying that. It just what I'm saying is that it's an accepted an international symbol of surrender.
Yeah, generally it is, yes.
And do you not think a white flag gives you a certain level of protection, or at least should give you a certain level of protection?
It should, but when the enemy is using white flags to attack you, it makes everything a lot more difficult to evaluate. This is one of the reasons why people don't like it when Hamas utilizes these types of tactics in the battlefield, is because it makes it more risky towards civilians. This is exactly the type of mistake that they try to induce.
But then you could use that logic to justify any possible shooting of a person in Gaza. Well, Hamas has a habit of doing this. Hamas has done that. Hamas typically drives this type of truck. So we shot them, or we bombed them, or we whatever.
No, I don't think so. I just think that in times of war in active battlefields, you're going to be inducing soldiers to make decisions that are a bit more on the risky side that they otherwise ordinarily wouldn't, because...
What steps did that soldier take to distinguish whether this was a military or civilian?
Well, on the macro level, the Israeli army has already tried to evacuate civilians from active combat zones. So that's on a macro level. What?
What's that soldier specifically?
I don't know if that soldier specifically has an obligation here to be second guessing. If a commander is given the order of everybody in this building is a terrorist, shoot anybody that comes out, at that point the soldier can shoot whoever, and assuming there's not like a super ultra obvious clear indication that something is wrong here, they're probably free to follow their commander's orders.
Is that the case? The commander actually gave the order to shoot anyone who was in that building?
I mean, if they're already engaged with that building and they don't think any civilians are in there, that'd be my guess. But I'm making an assumption there.
Well, then the fault would lie with the commander. I don't recall seeing any evidence of that. It seems like it was that one soldier's decision. He failed to distinguish. You've said that he failed to distinguish between a military and civilian target. Now we can quibble all day about how reasonable was that or not, but that.
Wait, hold on. To be clear, the whole point is the reasonableness. What you call a quibble, but that is the entire point of what the international law of armed conflict is supposed to regulate here. Why are you failing to distinguish that? If you were operating in an ordinary combat theater, in an ordinary operation, and there is an apartment, and there are a couple bad guys, and a ton of civilians are there, and a bunch of civilians run out, and you start mowing down those civilians, you'd be like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? This is a civilian apartment building. Why are you just killing everybody that comes out? But if you're operating in an area that you think has already been abandoned, and now you're trading fire with terrorists in a building, you've even got aerial support that's shooting at this building, and then you're led to believe there are no hostages in this area, they're all in tunnels or whatever, another place, and then people come running at that building, you're assuming almost everybody's a military target. With crazy exceptions, like a school bus full of kids came running out and they're all 6-year-olds and you start shooting. Maybe that's fucked up. But it sounds like based on this, the soldiers didn't have the greatest view of who came running out. My guess is going to be everybody on the ground probably assumes that everybody come out of here.
If you didn't have a view of who came running out, the first default should not be to shoot them. It should try to identify them.
You don't have time to do that. That's not reasonable. No. What?
No one said they were actually close to the soldiers. It seemed like there was a good amount of distance before the shooting.
Yeah, but you're trying to kill everybody coming out of this building. You don't want to just let them escape for free.
But if you're just trying to kill someone in a building because you think there's some terrorists there, that would still be indiscriminate shooting. You're not failing to distinguish unless you have.
No, they've already the distinguishing has already begun as part. Didn't they say they literally sent a dog into the building and they didn't see any hostages? The K9 unit.
The dog didn't see any hostages. What does that even mean?
Wait, what did you know? The dogs.
You said they sent a dog in. How does a dog tell you if there's a hostages or not?
Because the dog has a camera on it.
Okay, they sent a dog with a camera on it, and the dog did not see any hostages. Is that something that was said?
Yeah, it was in the IDF release thing that I had. From scans conducted in the building after the shooting incident on December 15th, a camera was found of the dog from the Oket's K9 unit that was killed. The findings indicate that the hostages were in the building where the forces operated, and the terrorists who were killed were those holding the hostages. In the footage found on the dog's camera, the hostages are not seen, but their voices are heard crying for help. At the end of the battle, after the terrorists holding the hostages were killed, the hostages likely fled the building.
So their voices are heard crying for help.
Yeah?
According to this wonder dog. So if they sent a dog in with a camera and there's voices of hostages crying for help, and then you still shoot everyone that comes out of the building, at this point you have at least some evidence there are hostages in there.
No,
you have a good amount of evidence actually.
No, you have no evidence. The whole point is
What's the point of sending the dog in?
To see if you can actually see hostages or to ascertain what's inside the building, and they weren't able to.
Crying for help is not sufficient.
No, they explain in this that these are the tactics that Hamas engages in when they fight, is to lure people into booby-trapped buildings and then blow the buildings up.
Two wrongs don't justify a right.
What?
course Hamas
It's not. No, there is no. We're not talking about.
Of course Hamas does some fucking dirty, shady ass fucking shit, right? But that still doesn't alleviate the responsibility that the IDF has to distinguish whether it was or
That is true. Nothing that the enemy does.
To do their best to distinguish between a military and a civilian target. And given the fact that they were actually, when they sent this wonderful dog in, that they heard hostages screaming for help, that should at least give you a reasonable doubt that, hey, maybe not everyone in this building, just maybe, is not a valid target for us to shoot.
The whole point is that these are the tactics that Hamas engages in, and they had no reason to
then
think
by that logic, you could just shoot anybody because Hamas engages in these tactics.
You're not just shooting anybody, though. These are people in a building that was returning fire that they are engaged in active combat with, that they have verified that there are Hamas militants in. These aren't just any people. These are actual fighters in a building that you're trading shots with, that you're actually fighting right now. It's not just any random people on the street that you're going to kill.
Yeah, but you can make that broader argument about anything. Well, Hamas tends to do this, so therefore, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Hamas tends to drive around in these types of trucks, so therefore we blew up their truck. Hamas tends to use human
No, you would need. Hold on, no, wait. No, you're not. Wait.
Going in circles.
Well, but he's not. You have to give the. It's Hamas tends to drive around in ambulances. So if you're chasing an ambulance with guns out the back shooting at you, you might assume that Hamas is in there. Yes, correct.
It's analogous.
No, wait. That is exactly analogous because this building had Hamas people shooting at them from the building. Yes.
There was also hostages screaming for help.
Yes, that they've tried to booby trap with before. They put things on speakers and they try to get people to go to buildings. They blow them up.
This would be like a police officer. This would be like a police officer driving through the hood, pulling over a black guy and shooting him. And it's like, well, I've had black people in the past who try to pass off as civilians and then they shoot me or they take shots at me. So therefore, I shot him.
Okay, I need moderator intervention to figure out who's getting lost here.
The point isn't that I don't think Destiny is saying they're screaming help means that they are a terrorist. He's saying that they can't, like, this isn't a credible request as a civilian, that they can't.
But it still gives you reasonable doubt to question.
Because they just, well, no, so it's the point is that it's moot. Like, it's not evidence one way or the other, and that instead they're going to send dogs in and they're going to take other precautions to try to figure it out.
Hearing hostages screaming for help is at least somewhat of an indicator, just a little bit, just a tiny amount, that maybe, just maybe, it's not all Hamas in there. Hostages screaming for help. You're saying that carries zero weight.
I think Destiny's saying that if it was a terrorist, they would do the same exact thing. And so, yeah,
yes, you don't know. Yeah, you don't know 100% for sure just because it's screaming for help. But at the very least, because you hear someone screaming for help, that should give you at least somewhat of a doubt that everyone in that building is. Or you're just saying that someone screaming for help carries no weight at all.
Yeah, so he's just saying that it's not one way or the other.
You're saying that someone screaming for help carries no weight.
If anything, I don't know the exact numbers, but if anything, people screaming for help might carry more evidence that it's a terrorist than not.
Got it. So someone screams for help, it makes more sense for the IDF to shoot them.
Well, here's the question. Let's say theoretically, if we were to look up to this point in the war, what if you had 50 different scenarios where there were speakers that were wired up for people to scream and help in Hebrew, and those buildings were booby-trapped, versus one scenario where when somebody asked for help, it was legitimately a hostage. On your 53rd building that you encounter, are you going to assume that it's a legitimate hostage screaming for help, or does the speaker make you even more confident that it's probably a terrorist inside? What would you assume?
Yeah, so just to quickly preface what I'm about to say, we have no evidence that that's the case. Most of the time, this is what happens. But let me just grant you that premise. Yes, of course, you'd be more likely to think that this is a booby trap. However, you would still take steps to distinguish, at least just like one step to distinguish where this is someone pretending to be a civilian, or that person's actually a civilian, right? Like this whole argument goes out the window if these people had weapons on them, right? Or they looked like they were suicide bombers because they're wearing like super heavy jackets. But the fact they had their shirt off with a white flag, and the fact that the dog heard people screaming for help, at the very least, should make those soldiers or the IDF general think, okay, well, let's investigate before we just pull the trigger.
I don't know if those soldiers that shot had access to all of the information that the dog unit was broadcasting at the time.
It sounds like the point of sending the dog in.
For the commander to try to ascertain what was going on.
So then the fault lies in with the commander if he doesn't even bring up the fact that there's hostages screaming for help.
Well, they would. I don't know if he would find that that's relevant information to transmit to the troops. Because if every single time this has happened, it's been a booby trap so far. How many hostages have even been recovered in?
You don't know that every single time it's been a booby trap. That's purely your speculation.
Okay, well then let's ask: how many times do you think hostages have been saved like this? How many times have they popped up like this?
How many times do I think that? What do you mean, like, how many times do I think?
Let's say theoretically, let's say of all the hostages that were released, what if I told you that up till now, only 2 of them were actually rescued in an operation like this?
I just want to be sure I understand the question. Are you asking me how often do I think hostages escape and have a white flag and walk toward ADF soldiers?
Yeah.
I don't think that happens often. I think a lot of hostages don't escape on their own. That's just not common.
Okay, so I think my understanding, I'm just looking this up now, unless somebody says something different. I think up till now, only 2 hostages have ever actually been rescued in active combat. That was in February of 2024. And every other hostage has been released through like an exchange. So if you've never seen hostages up to this point in a building like this, and you've got reason to believe that they're in other places, and you've encountered multiple booby traps where they have speakers shouting in Hebrew, why would you assume somebody shouting in Hebrew is like, oh, well, we got to do a huge proportionality, or we've got to do a huge check on civilian life here, whatever.
One thing, you have to do a huge check.
You're saying that in an active combat scenario, they needed to run up and ID the dudes.
The soldier took 0 steps to try to distinguish whether it was a military or civilian target. 0 steps.
Do you think they should do that?
At least take 1 step. Just 1 step. Just at the very least say, hey, stop. Who are you? What's your name? Don't come any closer. At least take 1 step to try to distinguish.
If people are
not taking any steps,
if you see people running out the back of a building, do you think you're not allowed to shoot them? Do you have to like scream at them and shout and figure out who it is first?
If you see people, well, I know in America, people running would not just get shot.
Wait. America is not an active war zone right now. Why are we making that comparison?
Have you been to San Francisco?
Yep, it's not an active war zone.
No, I'm fucking with you. Okay, so let me try and engage on what you're saying. So if people are running out of the building, I think it would depend on the context. I think
if you're engaged with a militant, you're engaged with the enemy military, and they're trying to escape an area, a position that you've destroyed now.
Yeah, I think that would be at that point at least somewhat reasonable to shoot them. But if they're running away, right. But this case was different. They weren't running away. They had a white flag and they were slowly walking towards the IDF. It's a very different thing between someone running away out of the building, trying to get away, and someone essentially surrendering to the IDF, having a white flag saying, hey, please don't shoot me, please don't shoot me. Bop.
So this is where I want to clarify. Destiny, are you arguing that this isn't indiscriminate, or are you arguing that they were justified?
I don't think the soldier at the time, I think, probably had reason to shoot basically anybody coming out of that building. If somebody made a mistake, it would have been on the commanding officer. I don't know if the commanding officer at the time would have reasonably been able to figure out that there were 3 actual authentic hostages in this building.
Your position has totally changed, because initially you said that, yes, I think this was indiscriminate shooting.
I said based on what you were describing, what you had said was indiscriminate shooting. But as I've read more on this now,
what have you learned? If anything, the stuff that you've shown me kind of proves my point. The fact there was a dog and I heard someone yelling. What evidence did you learn that made you change your position? I'm curious.
What were we at? Oh, I didn't know the extent of the battle that was going on against that building. I didn't know that it was literally like helicopters and shit going on. I didn't know that the commander had issued a ceasefire after 2 hostages were shot, but the guy that shot the other guy was near an actively firing tank, and the guy that shot the 3rd hostage didn't even hear that order. I wasn't aware that I don't think that the fact that there were even hostages shouting, apparently IDF probe reportedly reveals soldiers who shot dead hostages weren't briefed on Hebrew sign spotted ahead of time. It doesn't seem like the soldiers had the information at the time to make a more, I guess, accurate call that there would be hostages in this building.
If that's the case,
I also didn't. I didn't know until I looked up now. I didn't know that literally only 2 hostages have ever actually been freed from an operation like this, and every other hostage has been released ahead of time. And that the vast majority of time, basically every time except for this time, I guess, they've come across shouting hostages in a building. It's been a booby trap. I didn't know that it was that lopsided as well.
That's what the IDF is saying. We don't have any third-party evidence. We're just going off what the IDF says. But let me just grant you that for the sake of argument.
Wait. Hold on. To be clear, you're going by what the IDF says as well, correct?
In what sense?
In every sense. What do you mean? Everything you're telling me is all of this is what the IDF is saying.
Well, no, I'm going off the article, which I don't think. I think the only thing I said that was.
Wait. Who is the article quoting?
Well, so I was just about to say that. The one thing that I did say that comes from IDF is when I said they took responsibility, or they said that it was them. That's the only part of this that I'm quoting the IDF.
You're relying on the IDF for the entire situation here.
You think the IDF just kind of documented this and shared this with the world? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. What do you mean? Where else would the information come from? It's not like there was a reporter on the ground.
Where would the information come from? I don't know. From the it could come from any number of places. It could come from other witnesses that were there. It could come from the body identification when they send it to the hospital or whatever.
How would the body identification let you know what was going on the ground here?
It could be the fact that it could be any number of sources they came from.
Wait, we don't have to guess. We can just read on all the.
I don't think the IDF would deliberately say, "Hey, we fucked up and shot 3 of our hostages." If that was the case, then why would they even need to do investigation?
Wait,
right?
hold on. What do you? Yes, the IDF literally did say that. Yes, this is why we know about this. They literally came out and said, "Yeah, we think we shot 3 hostages, and it's super tragic." And why would they do an investigation? Because they want to know if their soldiers are just carte blanche shooting people and murdering them like crazy people, or they want to figure out like how did they fuck up here so they don't kill more hostages in the future.
Why in the world would IDF share the fact that they killed their own people? That's a horrible look for them.
Yeah, because welcome to democracy. Yes, because it's a democratic institution. And if you cover something like this up, you might lose all of your authority from your population to conduct war. They're not fucking Hamas. They have some obligation to their people to be honest about what they're doing.
Of course, Israel never ever covers things up.
Total non sequitur, and I'll take that as complete and total concession and admission to what I just said was 100% true. That is correct. Concession. Yes. Wait, hold on. If you think that the IDF doesn't report us ever, why do they ever wear body cams? Why don't they just not record any footage whatsoever? Why do we have any footage of anything ever happening in the field at any point in time ever?
Well, there could be any number of reasons. Sometimes there's first-hand accounts from witnesses and whatnot.
Nope, and that's not what I asked. Hold on, no, don't divert. I'm asking you, why is there ever any footage ever of what's going on in the battlefield? Why do they ever wear body cams? Why would the IDF say no more footage?
Is it a fact that all the IDF soldiers wear body cams?
Didn't say it was, but we have body cam footage from a lot of soldiers. So the question is, why do any of them wear body cams ever? Why do we ever have body cam footage? Why wouldn't they just say no footage ever so we don't tell on ourselves when we indiscriminately kill civilians?
Well, I think they want to have the footage. Doesn't mean they want to release it. Like you can review the footage internally, try to figure out what exactly happened, so you have more information on the situation. For example, if it's something that kind of buttresses your point, where it defends you, where the claim is like, "Hey, you shot an innocent person." It's like, "Hey, we looked at the footage. It was someone who's Hamas." Right? There's a lot of reasons why the IDF internally would want the body cam footage. But there's a difference between having the body cam footage for internal investigations and for potentially defending yourself when the shooting was justified, and literally. What's it called? And literally them purposely going out of their way to show something that's super embarrassing for them.
Okay.
I mean, even the
US
government.
Who, if they have the footage internally, who's releasing it then?
Well, we don't have any footage of the incident.
No, but footage in general. Well, we have audio of the incident, but footage in general of the IDF doing anything. The footage comes from the IDF, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, there could be leaks. There's a big difference between there's hey, the IDF consciously decided to share this, and that there's a leak where someone on the inside decides to share that. We have leaks in America all the time. Leaks happen.
Okay, who were
Alex,
the first?
Are you saying that they never release footage by themselves?
All right, what?
Are you saying that they never release footage?
No, I'm not. I just don't think the IDF. I'm sure they've definitely released footage. I think generally they release footage when it supports whatever arguments they're making. Cannot imagine the IDF deliberately, releasing audio that makes it clear that they shot 3 of their own hostages. That would be a PR nightmare. Why would they want to share that?
Because it would be an even worse nightmare if they were discovered to have done this without reporting it first, because it would look like a cover-up.
Okay, we can quibble about this. I think my counter argument would be it's a war zone. You can cover a lot of shit up. In war, there's a massive fog of war. I think.
Okay, who do you think leaked this first?
Well, all the cars, young man taking the oldest brother on phone. He was with his father. Chicken Hatcher told his sister only he had been injured by terrorist gunfire until the call disconnect. Torn Israeli hostages missing. Okay, October 7th, he was with his father and Chicken Hatcher and told his sister in a phone call they'd been injured by terrorist gunfire until the call disconnected. It was gift and musician. He told from his house burned down. Him his mother. Some people think they don't shout. No one bring your children back. Okay. Some of Israel on the ground and nations killing hostages at 100. Well, let me kind of get to this. Israelis were held. Now we can act like more troops.
I'm a bit confused. Why are we trying to resolve right now whether this?
You guys are arguing who it is that they're quoting, whether they're quoting the IDF.
Let me just, for the sake of arguing, grant Destiny this premise because I don't really think it's that important.
Sure. Or just to be quick. But basically what happened was he was saying that, well, if I believe this IDF thing, and he does this a lot where anything the IDF releases he doesn't trust, and then I'll say, okay, well, I
also don't trust Hamas either.
That's fine, but then you fall into this fallacy of trusting third-party authentication when generally the third-party authentication is just asking, like the IDF. So you're pointing to the CNN article You're really just pointing to the IDF. That's all you're pointing to, but I don't think you realize that. Like, the CNN article is getting information from the IDF, from an IDF spokesperson, from IDF captured footage, from IDF like statements from military commanders. That's what all of this is the IDF. So when you say I don't trust the IDF, we're both using the IDF.
Well, we know that
One second. Can we just zoom up and make sure we're still actually talking about the thing that we're supposed to be talking about? Like, the big point that this was about was that this debate is about is whether Israel is systematically committing war crimes, right? Mm-hmm. How does resolving this fact relate to that proposition?
Well, I'm okay to move on.
No. Well, so it does. So the question is there's two different versions essentially of this story. We're trying to figure out whose version is closer to the truth. My version is that the IDF is engaged with combatants in a building ahead of them, and the engagement is heavy. They've got, I think, air fire, they've got ground fire, they've got tanks shooting at other things, and they've got return fire from the building. I think they send a dog in. They try to figure out who's in this building. At the end of the day, the commander seems to think that the only people in this building are militants, okay? And they're exchanging fire and everything's happening. Now, in the course of this combat operation, apparently 3 people run out of the building with white flags, and there's a soldier, I don't know, some distance away who's standing near a tank, I guess, who shoots at these people, kills 2 of them. 1 runs back inside, and then the commander issues a stop fire order, but the guy who's away, apparently, again, next to a tank, didn't hear it, shoots and kills the 3rd hostage. That's my story, the story that I'm supporting, is that seems to be what happened. And Alex's side of the story, and Alex
agree with everything you just said.
What?
100% agree. 100% agree with
That's
everything
fine.
you said.
And Alex's side of the story, Alex is saying that they're engaged with a building, but there could be any number of civilians inside. They have no idea and no reason to believe one way or another. And then he's saying that when people are running out of the building with white flags, that the IDF needs to be doing an individual check on every single person that comes out to ensure that they're not actually a combatant, because if there's cries in Hebrew, it could be that there are actually hostages in that building, and that as they come running out, that a soldier that's shooting at them is basically just engaged in the war crime of indiscriminately shooting between civilians and militants, because he's not even bothering to try to distinguish. That's the 2 different stories. And
so you did something very interesting here.
Wait. Sorry, there's a further thing though. So
wait, can I respond to that? Because I think it's really important. It's relevant, but
I think it's worth just making sure this all connects, if that's okay. So I understand you just said that you each have a different assessment of what happened. Is resolving whether that source is reliable somehow important to resolving that disagreement about what happened?
It's not.
Because there's some fact that hinges
argument,
on...
Yeah, Destiny's argument is that like, really this is what the IDF says happens regularly, and then Alex is saying, well, why would we trust the IDF on what they're saying happens regularly? This is what they would use to say it was reasonable to assume that these people could have been Hamas or terrorists, and so that fact is something that Alex is discrediting.
I'm just going to go ahead and withdraw that, because again, I don't think it's relevant at all. I think there's a bigger argument to be had. I'll just go ahead and withdraw everything I said, because at the end of the day, it is speculation about, we don't know exactly. But anyway, what you did was very interesting, Destiny. In your side of the story, you just stated all the facts that I actually agree upon, right? You didn't, but then when you did my side of the story, you just said all the speculations, most of which are not even correct. I never said that they need to take some massive steps to distinguish. I said that there needs to be at least some reasonable effort to distinguish. I never said that.
What is the reasonable effort to distinguish?
Asking them to stop. Asking them who are they.
If you think that there's a building that's full of militants that's shooting at you, and then people start running out of the building, you think you have time to ask them?
Given the fact that you sent in a magical dog, and the dog heard hostages screaming for help.
Hold on, I'm sorry. You keep returning to this point. Do you think hearing hostages screaming for help is a point in favor of there actually being hostages in there, or a point in favor of being a booby trap?
I don't know, but I think it's at least gives you cause to pause.
Okay, what if up to that point not a single hostage had ever been found in one? Up to this point, not a single hostage had ever been found in a building, and multiple times they had played Hebrew on speakers, trying on booby-trapped buildings to try to kill IDF soldiers.
If that was the case, it would be more understandable why the soldier fired, but that's still, even if all of that was true, that would still be a classic case of failing to distinguish between military and civilian targets that led to the death of 3 Israeli people. So I just want to really quickly
we differentiated this earlier. You keep repeating that, and we differentiated this earlier on whether or not it's reasonable based on the scenario. You keep saying that they didn't distinguish, but it's based on whether or not they did so reasonably based on the scenario.
And this is what me and Destiny disagree on. I personally don't think they did it reasonably. Destiny thinks it was done reasonably.
Well, how far away was the shooting?
I know there was some distance apart. I don't know exact like feet or yards or.
Well, let's say it was like 50 meters away or 100 meters away. How are you supposed to? And they're just running. How are you supposed to distinguish?
As far as I know, they weren't. Okay, so were they actually running, or did they run out and then start walking? Because it seems like if they're waving a white flag with their hands up, it's kind of hard to run like that. I think at that point they'll be more like walking. I don't know. Do we have any information they were actively running the whole time, or did they just run out of the building they escaped from, and then they started coming over to the IDF, showing them that they're not a threat?
It says, so from the investigation and analysis of the findings and aerial footage of the area, it was revealed that the hostages were walking shirtless, and one of them was waving a white flag, standing at a point with limited visibility relative to the position of the shooter that fired the shot.
Keyword, walking, not running.
Okay, keyword, active battleground, where you've been told that every single person in the building in front of you is a threat, and it's essentially been verified as such.
Well, clearly that was a false analysis, because clearly every single one of them was not a threat. I think just
wait. The results don't matter. What you just said has no bearing on anything. You keep using a retrospective analysis, and that's not the question here. It's always prospective. What did the people on the ground think at the time? That's because if we go by your retrospective, oh well, obviously there was a hostage, then everybody's going to walk into a booby trap building and get blown up over and over and over and over again. That doesn't make any sense. We can't analyze it retrospectively.
No one's saying you have to do that. I have no problem with the idea of taking every single possible precaution. I just don't think that every possible precaution should be shooting someone on sight. When it seems like they don't pose a threat to you, when they're walking and have a white flag, I think at that point, I think that say you're not just being more safe by shooting them. I guess in the argument, if you kill everyone, you're probably more safe. But aside from that, no, I think at that point, you're actually failing. I don't know if there was. I would venture to say there's probably no malice in that soldier's heart. That seems to be the most reasonable thing. But that doesn't change the fact that he totally failed in order to even try to distinguish what was a military or civilian targets.
Well, the malice is that's the whole question. Is this guy just like shooting whoever the fuck he sees and doesn't give a fuck? Or does he have a reasonable suspicion that everybody coming into this building is a militant and has been essentially ordered as such?
Malice means like you're like actually trying to hurt somebody, right? I haven't seen any evidence that the soldier was actually trying to do this on purpose, right? It just seems like, but again, you don't need to have malice in order to be involved in indiscriminate shooting. It just means that you didn't take a reasonable amount of steps to distinguish whether it was a military or civilian target. And we're just going to disagree on this because you think
you could be careless.
Yeah,
okay.
But you can be careless and still be involved in indiscriminate shooting. That's literally what it means. Indiscrimination. Like you fail to distinguish or you don't take reasonable steps. The thing that we're going to
hold on. Hold on. You are mixing these two things. Fail to discriminate doesn't
distinguish.
That doesn't mean that that you just fail to distinguish. It means the part about taking reasonable steps, right?
Yeah, this is what we disagree on. I don't think the soldier took any kind of reasonable step at all to try to distinguish. And I think the fact that they sent in a dog in and there was hostages screaming for help, I think that's pretty good evidence of the fact that.
Why do you keep bringing this point up when they're not? Oh man!
Because at the very least, that should give the soldier pause, just a little pause.
Can we have a moderator thing? Do you think that if you've been in a situation 50 times where help has been screamed and every single time it's been a booby trap, on the 51st time when you hear somebody screaming for help in a building, is this a strong indicator that you should pause and consider that this might be a hostage? If no hostage has ever been saved like this before.
By the way, 50 is just a pure number that Destiny made up.
It is, but Alex is saying that would just give you more reason to go investigate, and he doesn't feel like they went and did that investigation. That, like, before you would probably neutrally assume that they're just one or the other, but now you've got something that, like, kind of makes you think that it could be this, and so now you need to go investigate. And Destiny, do you have, like, a... Like,
when I say go investigate, I don't mean like go up to the person and take their information down. Right. All I mean is that you take some kind of reasonable step. Yeah.
Yes, that they should have some evidence to think one way or the other before they pull the trigger.
Well, then you try to distinguish, or you take a reasonable step. Again, it doesn't mean you have to go up to the person, do an interview with them. But if you see someone wearing a white flag, then the course of action should be, even if you feel threatened, like, hey, stop, don't move. Otherwise, we're going to have to shoot you. Lay down. Okay, who are you? What exactly is going on? Okay, say something in Hebrew. Okay, you speak Hebrew. Where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. And then you try to do a test. Okay, they're wearing a shirt. Okay, keep your hands out. Then you frisk them for weapons. Okay, no weapons. You probably arrest that person. And then later on, you figure out that they were hostage, right? But there's reasonable steps that can be taken that don't really endanger the soldier's life. Being a soldier is dangerous either way. If the goal is to completely remove zero threat from the soldier, then that's just going to be essentially shooting every single person, right? But there's a reasonable amount of risk and unreasonable amount of risk. And I don't think that asking that person to just stop, who has the white flag, asking to stop, lay on the ground, and trying to do a little bit, just a tiny amount of investigation would be an unreasonable thing for the soldier to do. And I think that's what soldiers should do. And it seems like I don't even know if Destiny disagrees with that. Like, is Destiny's perspective that if they feel threatened and there's like active combat zone, you're just free to go ahead and shoot everyone?
I just think
Destiny, you're saying that they fit a pattern. Does that mean that this is reasonable enough to pull the trigger?
If this was the pattern, I don't think this would be cause for concern, because this is an exceptional set of circumstances.
Well, because no Israeli hostage has ever escaped. That's why it's an exceptional set of circumstances.
Yes, that's
we don't know. Let's assume there was like 20 different groups of hostages that escaped, right? Then you would have a point there. But since it's never happened, it's an exceptional case because the IDF was never in a position to shoot their own civilians because no one ever escaped. But it is part of a pattern when you see the Israelis also shooting Gazan civilians, right? But again, there's no way it could be a pattern because prisoners have never escaped from the
if
Hamas.
Every single time the IDF shot a Gazan civilian, it was because they were running out of a building that had previously been identified as a military hot zone that was trading active fire with Israeli soldiers in an area where they believed that all the civilians had been evacuated. I don't think that's a troubling pattern of behavior. I think it's unfortunate and it's tragic, and it's all the more reason why Hamas should be held more accountable in terms of how they conduct warfare. But at some point, you have to take reasonable steps as a military, but it can't be at the risk of all of your own people. It can't be at the risk of losing soldier after soldier after soldier because you're trying to verify all of these people that are dressing up as civilians and not wearing uniforms and suicide bombing themselves.
You're subtly changing the story. So the people weren't running at the IDF. They were walking towards them with a white flag. Second of all, you mentioned suicide bombs. Well, they have their shirts off. So the risk of a suicide bomb is not existent.
You can't have a weapon in your pants. There's no other way that you can be baiting for any other type of military activity.
You can potentially have a weapon in your pants, not a large weapon, but you cannot be a suicide bomber if you're just with your shirt off.
I don't even know if that's true. I don't even know if that's true. I don't know how large the fucking bombs they use now are.
Alex, did you want to move on to another one?
Yeah, sure. We can move on.
Oh, yeah, you can fit a grenade in your pocket. True, yeah.
You can fit a grenade in your pocket. Sure, but then if you're going to use a grenade, you have to take it out and throw it, right? So there's the difference with the
Or you can literally do it while you're on the ground. I've seen video footage of people in Ukraine and Russia doing this, where a guy will have a grenade out next to his head and he's laying there, and when a Ukrainian soldier walks up, he pops the pin and then he tries to blow him up.
In theory, every person could be a threat, right? But we're talking about reasonable. We're just going to disagree on whether this was reasonable or not. I think it's extremely unreasonable.
Also, sure. I just want to keep going. I just want to keep saying, okay, hold on, because you were playing a bad faith rhetorical trick every time you do this. You've done this a million times. You keep saying every person, every person, every person, every person. This is not every person. We're not talking about people running out of a random building in the middle of nowhere and they just kill and shoot them. We're talking about in an active combat zone where fire is being traded between both sides, where you've identified belligerents in the other building, where you've tried to investigate if there are hostages in there, and you've got no visual confirmation of it, and you hear a shout, but that same shout has been used to booby trap your soldiers in the past, and then people come out of that building and you've got a soldier who can't see it that well but sees somebody coming out and shoots and fires. That is not every person. That scenario doesn't explain every scenario, and that scenario wouldn't apply to every person. It is a very particular specific scenario, and the justification being used here is contextually related to that scenario. It's not every person. I know you're going to say this over and over again, but you keep doing like, oh, well, you can kill every person. No, you could just kill people that come running out of buildings that are actively engaged in combat with you in a combat zone, but you don't think there are any civilians in the area where you've tried to investigate, you don't get visual confirmation on any hostages. That would be the scenario that's being applied to right here.
You're strawmanning me once again. I'm saying the argument you're using could be expanded to justify.
No, it can't be. Give me an example.
He's saying that it can't be.
Give me an example of how you would expand this argument where it would be analogous to another scenario.
Sure. So the underlying logic here is that the soldier felt threatened due to the.
No, it's not. Has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I don't even know if the soldier felt threatened necessarily.
He literally said that. It was literally.
But that's not why he shot. It's not because he felt threatened. It's because they're in an active combat zone, engaged with militants that are identified as being in this building, that they've already confirmed are in this building. That's why this is happening.
Walking with a white flag. You just keep forgetting that part.
Sure, they've done this in the past to continue fighting. Yes, people have come out with white flags and everything. But again, you're diverting. What other situation is comparable to this?
Everyone with a white flag.
You just said everyone. He did the meme again. I know he did the meme again 5 times. I'm going to guess he does it 5 more times, but you say everybody. Even though it's not everybody, it is a very specific situation.
Okay. I'll just grant you that. So in a very specific, in this situation where there's an active combat zone and it's believed that there are targets in whatever building, and so in that case...
Wait, verified. They've been verified. They're returning fire. There were actual militants in that building.
I'm not denying that. And in that case, anytime you have a person walking out with a white flag, then you're justified to shoot them.
That is understandable if you do in that scenario. Yeah, you shouldn't. Hopefully, you. Oh, sorry.
We're just.
Sorry, go
ahead. Should we move on to the next thing?
Well, I want to ask one thing before you try to. Yeah, do you guys disagree on what on whether it would be reasonable in the case that there weren't the walking with white flags or the audio of cries?
Would you say that again?
Would you both take the view that it's a reasonable shooting if we subtract the walking around with white flags and the hearing cries on audio?
I think it becomes a lot more reasonable.
Yeah, I'm already on the what actually happened. I'm like teetering on the reasonable, unreasonable. From everything I've read, I'm like teetering on it's understandable or reasonable, but maybe there was a step to be taken where it wasn't, but I'm teetering there. So if you push it more in my favor, then I would say like, well, yeah, of course it's reasonable.
Okay, so you guys are both going to agree it's reasonable. Well, yeah, I mean, you guys will both agree it's reasonable in the case that we get rid of those two factors, like the white flag and the cries on audio.
I said it's more reasonable. I didn't say it was like 100% reasonable, but it's much more reasonable, yes, in that situation.
Okay, well, we'd have to establish what...
That's what happened.
Yeah, if there's more factors than that, then we'd have to like tease them out and see what they are. But there's some factors that account for the difference between your two positions, right? About whether it's reasonable or not. We know there's the white flag thing. We know there's the audio. And if we can find out what those...
the white flag doesn't mean anything because Hamas has tried to do that in the past, essentially.
Well, yeah. So, but I understand what kind of point he's trying to make. He's trying to say, unless you have so you have these two positions, unless you have a reason to believe that those factors that cause you to take a different view than him actually raise the probability of it being civilians, then it's not rational to have a different assessment of whether it's reasonable based on the presence of those factors, right? You'd have to like have a reason to think that those factors raise the likelihood that you're shooting at civilians.
Yeah, so...
If that's the case, then you guys could just kind of get down to like brass tacks, like is there evidence that it's more likely civilians in the case there's audio, or that it's more likely there's civilians in the case that there's a white flag?
We're just going to fundamentally disagree on how much of a role a white flag plays. I do want to, unless Destiny really wants to expose further, I do want to move on to the next thing because I feel like we've really circled the drain with this so many times.
Sure, we can move on to the next thing. I will say in conclusion for this, though, that like these types of shootings are in incredibly chaotic environments with a host of factors that the defending population is utilizing to cause the most amount of chaos and confusion possible in order to induce exactly the type of thing that we've just seen. So they've intentionally utilized, well, they've got hostages, which is already a war crime. They've intentionally engaged in booby-trapping buildings. They've intentionally used these cries in the past in order to induce soldiers to try to go into buildings that are later exploded. Like all of these things that Hamas is doing is intentionally to cause this sort of environment to be difficult to operate in as an IDF soldier. So if at the end of the day, the shootings that happen that were super critical of the IDF are well, hold on, maybe you could have discriminated a bit better when hostages came to this building. I don't think that's anywhere near the pattern of behavior as when you say, well, Hamas engages in indiscriminate killings where they literally come across festivals of people dancing and kill every single fucking person they see. It's not even remotely on the same level of indiscriminate killing. If we were to even say that what this IDF soldier had engaged in was akin to indiscriminate killing, I don't think it's even remotely close. They're different categories of things. But
yeah, so just my final response, Destiny just created a red herring. He's talking about, well, you know, Hamas is more indiscriminate. No one's disagreeing with that, right? But I believe two wrongs don't make a right. Of course, Hamas is evil. Of course, Hamas engages on these tactics that have been pretty well documented, right? So I fully grant that was never part of the discussion. But just because Hamas does it too, or Hamas does it more even, doesn't justify the idea of doing something wrong. We would never hold the IDF to the same standard. We would never hold Israel to the same standard as Hamas. The world acknowledges Hamas a terrorist organization, right? Everyone's pretty clear on that, or 99.9% of people. Versus with Israel, we hold them to a higher standard because they're a Western democracy, as Destiny has mentioned, because we give them aid, because they're, you know, respectful part of the international community, because they're a country, because they're in the United Nations, all that kind of stuff. So we wouldn't hold them to the same standard. So I don't know why it matters that Hamas does evil shit. Of course, I'll grant you that. That still doesn't take away from the culpability of this situation of what the soldier did.
Wait, hold on. Just a quick question. Wait, why am I bringing up that Hamas does evil shit?
Well, you literally said that they flew into a festival and killed a bunch of people. They failed to distinguish even less. What does that have to do with the argument at hand?
When I brought up earlier about the things that Hamas does about using booby traps, and
why did you say the thing about the festival then?
Because both of these things people describe them as indiscriminate killing. That was part of a broader point. But prior to that, I was talking about things Hamas does on the battlefield. Why did I bring those things up?
You were trying to make a defense for the IDF.
A defense how?
A defense in the fact that, well, because Hamas does all this shit, therefore this was a justified situation.
No. What I'm saying is because Hamas does these war crimes, the goal is to induce war crimes on the other side. It increases the likelihood of those war crimes. That's the issue.
If my goal is to get you to induce to kill me and you still kill me, that still doesn't justify from the fact you kill me. You can maybe make a stronger argument for it.
What? No, that's not. It absolutely does. If I walk up to a cop and I take my phone out of my pocket like this and I go, oh, and he shoots and kills me, there's a chance that the cop doesn't get in trouble at all. I'm acting.
You're not understanding the analogy I'm giving. I'm talking about something like, hey, Destiny, fuck you, man. Shoot me. Just kill me. Just kill me, buddy. Just kill me. Fuck. I hate you. I hate you. Shoot me. Shoot me. That still wouldn't justify you shooting me.
No, because that's not the analogy here. Hamas doesn't try to induce civilian casualties by saying, fuck you, IDF, kill me. They do it by dressing up in civilian garb. They do it by setting booby traps with speakers wired to Hebrew hostages screaming for help. Yeah. This is a totally different type of thing. It's not just like shouting.
Yeah, everyone knows all that, but that still doesn't justify the idea of soldier, or I guess the idea of general in the situation, not distinguishing between civilian.
It's not a matter. It's you have to do it.
Wait, let me finish. Okay. Not failing to distinguish between civilian and military targets, especially given the fact that someone was holding a white flag. Okay, just to take everything outside, someone walking with a flag, that in of itself should give the IDF soldier pause before they pull the trigger. Right now, we just disagree about how important the white flag is and how much role it should play. Yeah. We disagree about how important is the dog that was sent in and the hostage screaming for help. You're saying those things are almost irrelevant. I'm saying they're extremely important, and that's just a fundamental disagreement. I don't know if we could ever come to a conclusion on.
You guys just gave that sounds. You want to?
Well, yeah, just before, because it sounds like there's some desire to move on, but also I think sometimes when you get into the weeds, it's actually because you're getting close to like what the real core of the disagreement is. So, I mean, it sounds to me like the argument is they're systemically committing war crimes, and it sounds like if this is an instance of indiscriminate killing, that both agree that's like at least evidence in favor of that view. But it sounds like you're disagreeing about whether it's indiscriminate killing because you're disagreeing about if he was behaving reasonably. And it sounds like the reason for different standards about whether he's behaving reasonably is about the white flag and about the cries recorded on audio. So I guess I'm just maybe one of you guys can make me understand this, but my point of view, I'm not understanding how this whole thing doesn't just come down to a empirical dispute about whether white flags or audio recordings of cries raise the probability that you're going to be firing at civilians. How is that not way to resolve it?
He seems to think the opposite. He seems to think that if people are crying for help, then that's actually a
Wait,
point.
But instead of talking about what his view is, though, don't you both agree that would be how we'd resolve this? Like if we
the resolution is basically we're trying to take the behavior of the IDF soldier here, and we're trying to if we were to universalize his mind state to the entire Israeli army, would we expect to see an army that is just indiscriminately slaughtering civilians, which seems to be Alex's argument, or from my point, would we see an army that definitely makes mistakes and kills people they shouldn't, but it's not because of this indiscriminate, not like this failure to distinguish between military and non-military targets. It's operating in probably the most challenging urban environment that has ever been operated in by any military in the entire world against an enemy trying to induce these types of mistakes. That's the difference. And I feel like if you universalized what Alex thinks the mindset is, you'd see way more of this shit happening. And you wouldn't see the IDF reporting on themselves, and you wouldn't get all of these different frames of reference about what's happening. Whereas if you
there's no way there could be more instances of this because no prisoners have ever escaped. How could there be more instances of this? There's plenty of instances of,
wait, hold on. These guys didn't escape. They got killed by the IDF. Why do we there's a way that we could never know about this at all if they were just covered up.
Wait. But both sides, we would no longer be in a position. Alex said it would be more reasonable. Didn't go all the way to saying it would be reasonable. Destiny said it would be reasonable. He's already leaning towards it being reasonable without this. In the case that the white flag and the cries don't contribute to the likelihood that you're going to be shooting at civilians, why isn't this, like, I don't want to just hammer this point, but like, why isn't it just about resolving that? Like, if we don't have a reason to think that the presence of those things raises the probability that you're shooting at civilians, then you guys are back to having the same standard about whether it's reasonable and therefore whether
they argued that at the beginning,
right?
For a while. Destiny doesn't actually think that the white flag makes it more reasonable, that it's actually more likely a civilian.
But them debating it at the beginning for a while is
not the white flag, the other thing that he said. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but them debating whether it's reasonable earlier or whatever, I mean, I don't see how that's relevant. Like, I'm just pointing out, that seems like crux of what the dispute is, right? If those things don't contribute to the likelihood that you're shooting at a civilian, then aren't you guys both going to take the view that it's reasonable, or at least in Alex's view, more reasonable?
Me and Destiny just fundamentally disagree on the importance of the white flag. We fundamentally disagree on the steps a soldier would take, will be reasonable, would not,
Yeah,
would not be. I don't think we're going to rectify that.
Yeah, but if those things were rectified, we'd both be agreeing, right? So, I mean, I guess we could just decide.
Right now, okay, so right now there's a 0% reasonable and there's 100% reasonable. And let's say 50% is the threshold that you cross. And you start a priori at 0%. It's completely unreasonable to shoot and kill a hostage. And then you start adding points to make it more reasonable. What Isaac, I'm sorry. What Isaac is saying is that I am giving a lot of points to certain things and you're giving far fewer points. So, I fucked this up. 0% is supposed to be reasonable and 100% is supposed to be unreasonable. You're giving a lot of points to white flags and walking out of the building without a shirt on. You're giving like 80 points to these. You're saying that once that's happened...
It's not straw man. It's not... The shirt is a...
No, hold on. Oh my God, I'm not straw manning you. I'm literally explaining your point. You're saying that the presence of the cries in Hebrew and the presence of the white flag, that should be enough points to easily push you over that 50% threshold where you're now, as a whole military, pumping the brakes on whoever you're killing. What I'm saying is there's not enough points to boost you over because of everything that's happened thus far. That's our disagreement.
Yeah, I just don't think we're going to fundamentally come to disagreement on that. But the very next thing I'm going to show is directly going to buttress my point.
Yeah, but then what Isaac is saying is that if we don't resolve that dispute, we're going to watch 5 different scenarios where the exact same type of addition is happening, and we're going to have what seems to be disagreements, but it's going to be the same thing every time.
I'm going to show you a testimony.
I didn't say that, but I thought that. Yeah,
that's what's going to happen. Exactly. Yeah, of course.
It's like right here. I mean, it depends. Like, this is also why I wanted to clear up the burden of proof stuff, because that's going to affect this, right? Like, Alex definitely has a burden of proof. You need to show that there's a likelihood that the likelihood it's civilians goes up if there's a white flag or cries. Whether Destiny has a burden of proof to show the opposite is kind of depending on if he's being agnostic or taking the con on that. But minimally, you have to show that, Alex.
Yeah, I already did that. I said the white flag is an international symbol of surrender.
Yeah, but that doesn't... So I don't want to start doing the debating, but like that is...
Do we even know if the soldier that shot, do we even know if he saw the white flag?
No idea.
Do we have a reason to think that if there's a white flag, there's a higher probability in this context that you're shooting at civilians?
I personally believe that, yes.
If it does elevate it, it would be incredibly slight from my point of view. Like if you had like a 40% chance to kill somebody, and they came out with a white flag, it might go down to like 39 or 38%. It would be dramatically reduced.
Steve made the obvious point that it could actually indicate the opposite. It could be that in a context like this, a white flag actually increases the probability decreases the probability you're shooting at civilians. If there's sufficient perfidy or whatever you call it going on in the combat. Right, so
does the individual soldier have to know the probability?
Well, what I'm saying is just... Sorry, I don't want to press this out right now. You might have said something reasonable. I just want to make this point. Like, if the disagreement here about whether this soldier behaved reasonably or not is going to come down to the white flags and the cries, right? Like, we just need a reason to think that those actually raise the probability that you're going to be shooting at civilians, right? That it's civilians in the building. And absent that, it's not clear why we'd have a different like standard of reasonability there.
I mean, we can. It's up to Destiny, I guess. I mean, we can. I think we're at a standstill. I don't think we're going to make any progress. We have limited time, so I do want to get through at least like 3 of my points. But if you guys really want, we can keep going back to this over and over again. We just fundamentally disagree on these things, and it kind of comes down to an assessment. Destiny believes that due to the evidence that he's seen, that it actually...
Right, but he's trying to get you to justify your fundamental disagreement. He's saying that you actually think that the white flag means that they need to stop and do more investigation. And Isaac is saying, why though? Why do you believe that?
Wait, so close. So close, just not quite. I agree with you, TomFoolery, that, yeah, Destiny can put the burden on Alex to show the white flag. But this was the part. It was when you said... The thing that he needs to show is that the white flag raises the probability that you're going to be shooting at civilians.
Right.
I heard you say something about justify or his intent. I just didn't want to get too convoluted with it. It's just...
What kind of evidence would you like me to show? What's the evidence that you're looking for?
Well, I think that's kind of your burden.
Percentages.
Well, yeah, well, it comes down to what, like, are you asking me if I have a study on this? Not off the top of my head. No, I don't know.
It depends on Destiny's standard. Like I mean...
Well, I guess, like, I'm just looking at...
my own standard,
without... I understand the importance of resolving the things. I'm trying to figure out. We're asking a question of like, what information did the soldier have at the time, and reasonably, what do we think was going on when he was doing the shooting? So as I read these things, so just on point 2 here, the commanders gave orders to hold fire in order to identify the third figure. After approximately 15 minutes, the battalion commander heard shouts in Hebrew of help, and they are shooting at me, and gave additional orders to hold fire, calling out in Hebrew, come toward us. The figure...
That was after the first shot.
That's, yeah, correct. The figure emerged from a building towards the forces. 2 soldiers who did not hear the order due to noise from a nearby tank shot at and killed the third hostage. Like, are we envisioning here, and Alex, in your mind, are you envisioning that these 2 soldiers see a guy slowly walking towards an army that's calling him over, and they've seen him call, and they've heard everything going on, and that they decided to shoot and kill the person anyway? Is that what we're assuming, or...?
No, that would be malice. That's assuming nefarious intent. That's never what I've claimed. I've just claimed that they didn't take the reasonable steps to identify whether this person was a combatant or a civilian. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying there was any malice. I can't prove malice. Yeah, essentially careless. Yeah,
you can prove malice. Stop saying that. You can prove. Yes, of course you can.
Not in this situation. In this situation, I cannot prove malice. There's not enough info.
Okay.
I've never.
Oh, I don't know. Do you guys?
Yeah, we can move on to the next thing, but yeah.
For the love of God, I feel like we're circling the drain so bad. Okay, so this is directly going to relate to this whole previous thing, but it's going to look at it from a different angle. I'm kind of skipping around a little bit in my notes because of the time constraints. But so there's actually testimony from a former IDF soldier who was interviewed by The Guardian. So a soldier named Asaf came back forward to talk about IDF policies. Now, this was in 2002, so way before October 7th. But it seems like the stuff he's describing is still happening, or at the very least, with this, if we're assuming what he says at face value, taking him seriously, which I don't know why we wouldn't, then at the very least there was a policy of indiscriminate shooting. So here he says his orders were, he told The Guardian, every person you see on the street, kill him, and we would just do it. The article also reveals that in recent months, dozens of soldiers, including the son of an Israeli general, all recently discharged, have come forward to share their stories of how they were ordered in briefings to shoot, to kill unarmed people without fear of reprimand. So let me send you the article, but yeah, I mean, I think that's also pretty strong evidence right there. Here you go. So this would be a primary source, someone who was there, or at least in the IDF, talking about what the policies were, and then also supported by other soldiers that came forward.
From a distance of 70 meters and through the sight of his machine gun, Asaf could tell that the Palestinian man was aged between 20 and 30, unarmed and trying to get away from an Israeli tank, but the details didn't matter much because Asaf's orders were to fire at anything that moved. Asaf, a soldier in the Israeli army, pressed the trigger, firing scores of bullets as the body fell to the ground. He ran and I started shooting for a few seconds. He fell. I was a machine. I fire. I leave, and that's that. We never spoke about it afterwards. It was the summer of 2002, and Asaf and his armored unit had been ordered to enter the Gaza town of Dur al-Balah following the firing of mortars into nearby Jewish settlements. His orders were, he told the Guardians, every person you see on the street, kill him, and we just do it. It was not the first time that Asaf had killed an innocent person in Gaza while following orders, but after his discharge, he began to think about the things he did. The reason why I'm telling you this is that I want the army to think about what they are asking us to do, shooting unarmed people. I don't think it's legal. Asaf is not alone so far the international law cited up to this point is dog shit, but I don't know, maybe the soldier just doesn't know, or I don't know. Asaf is not alone. In recent months, dozens of soldiers, including the son of an Israeli general, all recently discharged, have come forward to share their stories and how they were ordered in briefings to shoot, to kill unarmed people without fear of reprimand. The soldiers were brought into contact with the Guardian with the assistance of breaking the silence. Okay. So this is a thing I'm familiar with. If you want, we can spend a whole 2 or 3 hours going over this particular report. This breaking the silence thing is a report of, what is it, like 20 or so soldiers, I think, with different quotes about like crazy, horrific stuff.
Let's just talk about this one soldier.
Although those speaking out are at a tiny proportion, their testimonies reflect what during the first intifada there were printed rules of engagement, in the second there were none, and what rules exist are kept secret. Is there anything more specifically about this guy, or is it just what's been said so far? Or do you want me to read more of this?
No, I mean, essentially, I think you summed it up. I think there's some other facts down there, but essentially, we have a former IDF soldier basically doing an interview with The Guardian, which is a reputable newspaper, and essentially outlining what the IDF policies, at the very least, were, if not still are, which is that you just shoot at anyone you see, which kind of lines up with what happened in the video. But anyway, I don't have to go back to that.
Sure. So, we have to dig deeper. If you want to go into one of the big issues when a lot of people are writing these stories from a civilian perspective is a lot of people are not familiar with what is a war crime or what constitutes like laws of armed combat or not. So the issue I have is that
laws. He's talking about what happened, what was said. He's not. Yeah, he did mention. I think it might be a war crime. That part doesn't matter. I'm not using that part.
That's
I'm just talking
perfectly
about
great.
his
That's fine. That's fine. But what I'm saying is that what I'm given here in the article doesn't necessarily even describe anything bad. I need more information. From a
every
distance,
person you see on the street, kill him. That doesn't describe something bad to you.
That would be bad. If that's true, that's bad. But I'm just going by the first story.
That's verbatim what it said. His orders were, every person you see on the street, kill him. That's what he said his orders were.
That's fine. I don't believe that's true because I think we would have had a massacre. We would have seen crazy shit in 2002 if there were people marching into the Gaza Strip and being told, kill every civilian you see. I don't think that. I don't recall any events in 2002 where there were massive massacres of hundreds or thousands of people in the Gaza Strip being killed by the IDF. I don't think that happened.
You know what the IDF policies are better than in a former IDF soldier. I
don't even know if this real.
You don't. Better than the guy that actually was involved in it. That's essentially what you're saying.
So hold on. Okay, I'm going to get real nerdy here. So I presented you a form of inductive reasoning for why I don't think this was an order given, and you're appealing to authority. If you want to say everything here is as it is because the person said so, then fine, I can't argue with that. But I'm giving you a reason why I don't believe that's true. If a soldier says, oh, I was told to kill every single person we came across, then I would expect in 2002 in Gaza, and this is even during the Second Intifada, there's a lot of violence going on, I would expect that we would see some crazy massacres in the Gaza Strip. That would be my guess.
Okay, I don't think you need to see crazy. I believe it was a limited operation. It wasn't a full-scale war.
Okay, but isn't Gaza one of the most densely packed places in the entirety of the world?
I think there were. This was a village. I believe this was in response to shelling from a village.
What do you mean from a village? From a city, right?
It wasn't Gaza City, I believe. It
doesn't matter. It's the Gaza Strip. It's a pretty dense area. There's not going to be like little itty bitty villages in the middle of nowhere.
This wasn't like Gaza City. It was like it was a smaller city where they were probably like whatever.
Aren't there literally like 4 cities in Gaza? How many Gaza cities are there? Gaza Strip cities.
Well, there's always like in these how it works. There's always like mini cities, right?
Yeah, like a metropolitan area, but it's fairly densely packed. Like I don't think. Right, you're saying in this village they just killed everybody. They were given orders to kill everybody. So then, shouldn't I be able to find like a huge massacre or something where 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 civilians were all killed?
Well, let me just go back to what you said, and then I'll address what you're saying now. So, it was. So you're making the claim. Well, yeah, wouldn't we see like a whole bunch of massive massacre of Gazan people? Well, none of the military operation was extremely limited, and they're like, hey, go to this small radius. And essentially, anyone you see, shoot them. So does that make sense to you, what I just said?
Sure. So you're saying it's possible that soldiers could have been told to go to an area where no other civilians showed up, told to kill anybody that comes across them, but nobody came across them?
No, I'm sure they did kill a bunch of people. I don't think it's like thousands of people. They made news. I think it was a relatively small area, and they did probably carry out those orders. I mean, he says that we would just do it. So he says they would carry out the orders. I don't have any reason to believe that this guy's lying.
What? Wait, so you don't trust the IDF, but you do trust the testimony of a single soldier?
Yeah, because he has no dog in this fight anymore. So
wait, what do you mean he has no dog in the fight? Why would you assume that?
What dog would he have in this fight?
We could think of a million dogs. We could think of maybe he got discharged and he was fucking ass mad, or maybe he's like anti IDF now because he's a pacifist, or maybe he made a bunch of pro-Palestinian friends and now he's anti-Israel.
He's more likely to have a bias. Literally, the government that's engaging in a war, and this includes every war, by the way, not just
the answer is going to be the single person. A single person is more likely to have a bias than an entire military apparatus in a democratically controlled government.
Okay, so a government that's engaging in a war, a highly controversial war that carries a lot of political and other types of consequences, right, is less likely to tell the truth than a single soldier who was there at the time is no longer there. Just do you not realize that by him saying that he's putting himself at risk? We're getting his name, so he could be there. Could be.
Wait, is he? I don't know if any of the people as part of this breaking the silence part even gave their real names. I'm not sure if that's even true.
Soldier named Asaf. I mean, we have the first name. I don't know if you want to like dig deeper and see what got last name.
Hold on.
But he's giving his first name at the very least.
You don't even know if that's his real name. It could just be.
Typically, if they don't, they say unidentified or a confidential source told us. That's typically how it works.
Okay.
Or can you just acknowledge that part?
No. If it's the case that they're given orders to kill anyone they see, that would be abhorrent. That's a bad thing. I would agree with you there, 100%.
That's what the soldier said.
That is indeed what one soldier said. Yes.
Okay, so what's the reason that? So what makes you think that you know better than the soldier that was there? Like, I just want to hear the answer to that.
Because if that's
Like,
a policy of the IDF, and even a policy during the particular operations during the Second Intifada, I feel like that would have translated to something that we could see in a highly identifiable way. There would have been tons of massacres. There would have been tons of civilians like just killed for no reason. There would have been like huge like single incidences of like 30, 40, 50, 100 plus, 1,000 plus, maybe if it's crazy, like people killed. Like that would be what we would see. Not like one soldier coming out and saying like, oh, we were told to kill anybody we found. And I guess it didn't really happen. And then also what's being described by this soldier is not technically even a war crime. Like a person being armed or unarmed doesn't make them a military target or not. That's not even relevant.
Every person you see on the street, kill him? That would not be indiscriminate shooting?
I didn't say that. I said the single incident that he was describing doesn't rise to the level of this is for sure not okay. Now, if he was being told to fire at anything that moved just in an open city with civilians, that's not okay. If that case is true, then
if it's in a big city or a small city.
It's not. No. If they're in an area, let's say that you have a building in front of you. You think there are 20 bad guys in there. You've done all the surveillance, and there's nobody else around, no civilians. And the commander says, "Listen, kill anything that comes out of the building." That's probably an okay command.
No, it wasn't the case, and you know it. It was in a.
You don't even know where this video. What do you mean that was the case, and you know it? You don't even know where this place is. What are you talking about?
You want the exact name of the village? I can pull it up in 30 seconds. I didn't think I need the exact name of the village.
You don't think it matters where things happen or the timeline? Or what do you mean you don't think it matters? You don't think it would matter if it was in the center of Gaza City versus if this was in some far-ass backwards place or in the ass end of nowhere in the northern part of the West Bank? You don't think that would matter?
I think that if
they were ordered to enter the Deir al-Bala.
Okay, so it was summer 2002 and Safan's armored unit had been ordered to enter the Gaza town of Deir al-Bahar, following the mortars into nearly Jewish settlements. His orders were, he told The Guardian, every person you see on the street, kill him. So, yeah, so he entered a town, not a city, a town called Deir al-Bala. That's where it happened. We can pull up the population of
If you had to guess, what do you think the population of the city is?
Why is it important? I mean, I can answer.
Why is it important? Because you're trying to say town as though there's like 5,000 people that live here.
Well, that's literally what the article says.
That only 5,000 people live there?
No. Okay, so wait, this is something different. How many people do I think live there? I can find out in 30 seconds, but
okay.
I don't know, probably like 100,000 or something.
Okay, is 100,000 just a small town?
So yeah, so it's 30 slightly over 40,000.
Okay, I don't know where you got that from, but sure. I see 75,000 on Wiki, although that's in 2017, so maybe it was smaller.
So 75,000, 300,000, don't really think it changes the picture. It's an area where there's civilians, and their orders were to fire upon anybody, right? 75,000, 300,000, what's the difference?
Yeah, I that's horrible. But I would expect if that was an order given, I feel like we would see a lot of civilian deaths then.
I mean, how much have you looked into this specific incident? You didn't even know what the town was until I told you. This specific incident is part of a broader thing that happened from 2000 to about 2005 called the Second Intifada. There was violence all over Israel, all over the West Bank, and all over the Gaza Strip. This is part of what this is happening. I don't remember, now I could be wrong, but in my going over the Second Intifada, I don't remember there being like these massive massacres of indiscriminately murdered people. I don't remember that. Maybe there were and I missed it, and if there was one that was in this particular area and this soldier is giving an account of it, that would be a pretty strong thing. Like, oh, okay, well, fuck, that's pretty fucked up. And it would be a really strong thing, like pointing towards evidence that this order was given and then it was followed. Yeah, how many people would be like a massive massacre to you, just so we're on the same page?
Probably 5+ if they're like just civilians killed for no reason.
Okay. So yeah, we're not disagreeing. Yeah, I mean, I didn't study the Second Intifada too closely. I'm familiar with it. I know there was a lot of controversy in the Second Intifada. There was a lot of claims of Israeli doing a lot of funky shit. So if I find you the incident showing there were some people dead, more than 5 people dead, that would be sufficient for you?
We would have to see the circumstances of the actual incident. It's not just like a tally of numbers. You have to understand the context and everything going on.
Well, so we're talking about intent here right now, right? We're talking about intent. And if the soldier's saying, this is what we were told to do, this was a top-down policy, just real quick, assuming what the soldier is saying is true, assuming that's the case, would then that be a culture of the very least indifference or of not giving a shit, indiscriminate shooting? Just
Yeah, if that order was given, yeah, that's fucking horrible. Yes, 100%. Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so you just have the order that happened in 2002 where he just tells people to shoot somebody. And Destiny's saying, well, based on the circumstances, it could be that they actually evacuated the entire city, and at this point, it made sense that.
Or no, there's no way they evacuated this part of it. What more likely is this event probably never happened. That would be my guess. I'm scrolling through like this. I'm scrolling through this list of like.
I'm looking at it too, and it seems like it definitely did happen. I'm just trying to get.
You have to have the specific scenarios, what you're looking for, right?
Yeah. So, Destiny, do you think it's more likely the soldier's lying or that he's telling the truth?
For this particular thing, the breaking the silence thing, I don't think very much credible stuff came out of this at all.
We're just talking about the soldier.
No, we're not. That's where this came from. This came from that broader report called Breaking the Silence. That's where this testimony comes from.
Yeah. So, okay. So I think I actually have it pulled up. And the room came from the government, showed their money, was killed, and 2 policemen after flash out while inside refugee camp. Okay, so here is wait, let me just confirm that this is the right thing. But here we have what's the name of the town I said? Deir al-Balah, right?
It's Deir al-Balah camp.
Yeah, so here we go. I'm gonna link you. This is Wikipedia, but I can get you more sources if you want. But just scroll down to Second Intifada.
Okay.
Events during Second Intifada, and I'll try to pull up another source.
Well, I've already looked through this. The most I see 5 different events where civilians were killed. In the first one, in 2000, 1 death happened. In the second one, in October 4th of 2000, 1 death happened. In another one, in the 21st of October 2000, 1 death happened. And the 22nd of October, 1 death happened. And then on February 3rd, 2003, 1 death happened. That's all I see in that village.
Okay, you're reading, I think, the wrong part. Let me just quickly pull this up. Deir al-Balah Massacre, 2002. That was 113, that's English. Okay, here it is. Okay, so according to the Palestinian Human Rights Monitoring Group, on 13 February 2002, Palestinian policeman and camp resident Shadi Mufa blah 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 were killed along with 2 other policemen after 5 Israeli tanks raided the eastern part of Deir al-Balah and fired flechette shells at them while they thought refugees in small camp nearby. It does say that residents of the camp have been involved in attempted attacks on Israeli settlements. That's what the initial argument says, that they did fire. But here we have, we have also on 6th October, that was a different incident. But yeah, so here we have.
Also, we've got 3 policemen and a camp resident. So 1, let's be clear, but I'll grant it. We're using Palestinian Human Rights Monitoring Group. We have 3 policemen and a camp resident. Okay. So, and they were, that you said that they had been suspected in attacks on Israeli settlements. However,
not those people, but there was shots fired. There was mortars fired from that village, not specific people.
However, this was February, and the article says that this happened in the summer of 2002.
Were the orders given, or this is when he was there?
Well, it said on the summer of 2002, Asaf and his armored unit had been ordered to enter the Gaza town of Deir al-Balah.
Okay, so everything I see is that it was around December 2002. Here we have 9. Okay, there's the Humanitarian Human Rights Network, where the considering comes in up to international community made sounds. 9 Palestinian civilians, including 8 civilians, were killed. 9 Palestinian civilians, including 8 civilians. That's kind of an oxymoron. Were killed by Israeli forces. 3 Palestinian children were killed by Israeli shelling, including 1 killed by flechette shell. Yeah. So I mean. Like,
what do you? I don't know what you're reading about right now. What is this? What are we reading about right now?
I'll send you the article.
Or just tell me the village and the date, or the city and the date.
Well, yeah. Didn't I pull that up already? I'll pull it up again. Just give me 1 second. There it is. Let me just double check all the facts. Make sure I'm not searching something wrong. Okay, so go to the article. It was summer in the Southern Barn. In order to enter the Gaza town, Deir al-Balah. I think it's a very similar spelling. I don't.
It's the same. If it's D-I-R or D-I-E-R, it's the same thing. Or if it's al with a dash or al without a dash, it'll be the same thing.
Summer 2000 already had been ordered 10 trip. It's not the first time killed. I wonder if there was multiple incursions at that time.
Yes.
So
Hold on. Yes, there were multiple incursions in every town. Again, it was a second intifada. It lasted for 5 years. There's going to be multiple incursions in all of these towns. IDF probably entered this particular town 3 or 4 times at least. Yeah.
Okay. So then I was looking at winter. Okay, let me try to find the summer. Okay, I think this is it. Hang on 1 second.
Are we trying to resolve right now whether the command was given or whether the actions that are associated with the
happened? Destiny things, it's not likely. I think that I'm just taking what the soldier says at face value.
I don't think this command was given. I think that if there were multiple soldiers reporting the same thing, I'd be more likely to believe it. It might even boost me past the 50% thing. But the fact that one guy says that this thing was given, he doesn't actually name an event where an improper shooting necessarily took place. The event that he's given doesn't necessarily show an improper event taking place. And the fact that I can't find any massacres or crazy things happening in that area, it doesn't add up to me. That doesn't seem right. But I'm also aware of the source of this, which is called Breaking the Silence. There's been a lot of questionable stuff about they've got hundreds of anonymous testimonies from IDF soldiers, and people have poked holes in a lot of these. So I'm also leaning on that a little bit. But even without that, it's weird that a soldier be given that order in a really populated town, and I can't find any massacre or anything that happened, even though they've been told to indiscriminately kill civilians. That's wild to me.
Well, I would assume that if the Israeli army goes into a town, people just hide. They go inside their houses, right? I'm assuming they're not just walking around and carrying on their lives. So the amount of people that could be shot was probably significantly limited by that.
It was limited to 0?
Not 0. It seems like, according to that one thing, 5, but I guarantee that was a different month. But no, I don't think it's 0. Just because you don't remember it happening doesn't mean 0.
So he's saying that that we're not sure if the order was given, and Alex goes and finds a group of 5 people who were killed in that city in the summer of 2002.
No, that's a discrepancy. They were killed in the winter, so there's a 4 or 5 month discrepancy. So people were killed in that town by the IDF, but there's a 5-month discrepancy between the initial article.
Hold on. The question is, if we found people who were killed in that summer, 5+ people who were indiscriminately killed in that town in 2002, would that then make us believe that the order was given, Steven?
Yeah, exactly.
Would you need more?
No, that would definitely push us in the direction. The issue is that I don't think people understand this, okay? For Babby's first atheist versus God argument, okay? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. When somebody says, "Oh, do you think God is real?" You're like, "No," and you're like, "Okay, well, what if I could show you this thing? Do you think that would make you think God is real?" I was like, "Well, probably not," but I guess it pushes me. Well, how much? Okay, what if I show you 2 things? Okay, well, you're making an extraordinary claim, so I need extraordinary evidence. The claim that a military commander in a highly populated area is saying, "Kill everybody you see, kill every single civilian, every single soldier." I think that because people have no familiarity with what any military operation in the history of the planet has looked like, they think that "Oh yeah, definitely a commander could just say that. That could be a thing that could happen," not realizing that claim, the a priori assumption on that claim is 1%. That is an extraordinarily strong claim. So
that's why I'm asking.
Yes. So what I'm looking for is, if I wanted to verify a claim like that, 2 soldiers helps a lot. Multiple soldiers, I imagine, would help quite a bit more in that direction. But also, probably multiple soldiers. I need dead civilians. I need to see that this actually happened. That's an extraordinary event happening if a commander's saying, "Kill everybody you see," but nobody died. That's insane to me. I don't understand how that.
No one's saying. So you're
right.
saying
Well, hold on, Alex. Hold on. So if we find a scenario where 5 soldiers were killed, you would say, okay, well, this is one scenario. It still doesn't seem as though they were given this order, because this happened once. We would have expected this to happen multiple times.
If there was a pattern of potentially, but it would go towards a stronger thing. Let's say, for instance, we were to look at this village and we were to find, oh, well, in the spring or summer of 2002, there was an event where 7 people were killed. Okay, well, let's look at the event. Now, let's say in the event there was military fighting back and forth. They're okay, this is dumb. But let's say we dig into the event. There were 7 people that were killed. 4 were kids, actually kids, not 17-year-olds with AKs, but 9-year-olds, and 2 were women, and 2 were adult age men or whatever. And there's no good explanation given for the idea for why that happened. And Palestinian human rights groups on the grounds say that they felt like the civilians were killed for no reason. Well, at this point, now I'm starting to think, okay, well, hold on. We've got a pretty big killing event here. We've got 8, 9 people killed. We don't have a good reason given by the IDF. We've got some Palestinian human rights groups saying that these killings were done for no reason. And now we've got a leaked report from Breaking the Silence via the soldiers saying, well, we were given orders to just shoot whoever the fuck we saw. okay, well, that starts to look a lot more convincing at that point. I'm like, okay, yeah, there's definitely something here. I might even be over the 50% mark. I'm like, seems like that probably happened then. That would be my assumption.
Tom, is the reason that you're asking about that because if Destiny, even if given the empirical data Alex is hunting for right now, would still not be, I would not take the view that the command was given, that then we're just kind of wasting time. Like, why are we looking up this empirical data if it wouldn't make a difference if delivered?
Yeah, so there's two things. One, yes, that, and that honestly there would have to be some like really big massacre or multiple events, or there, like he said, there would have to be extraordinary evidence here. It'd probably be something with a name that we've heard of numerous times, and so at this point it might not even be worth delving into because it's
so well, you want to, one sec, Alex, you want to establish if whether what Alex is looking for would actually make a difference to Steve anyway. Because if not, why are we talking
I'm wondering if it's even, yes, I'm wondering if it's even possible for Alex.
So what are you trying to dig up proof for right now, Alex? Not the proof, just the claim you're trying to prove.
That this event happened.
But the problem is that, like, for the standard of proof or the evidence that I'm looking for, because of my familiarity with the region, with the Second Intifada, and with everything going on here, it's not just going to be like, I found a news article with a sentence in it that says that. I need a way more comprehensive view of what's going on to establish that a command like this has been, like, seriously given. Because this is something that would be...
soldier that was actually there is at least some proof.
You don't even know if the soldiers are real. You have no idea. You don't even know where this testimony comes from.
It comes from a soldier. It's written in The Guardian. The Guardian's pretty... I understand if this was like just some shitty source. Guardian is a pretty well-established newspaper. I don't think...
The soldier is not reporting to The Guardian. The Guardian is not interviewing the soldier.
No, he gave an interview to The Guardian. I believe that's what the article said.
To be clear, though, what you're looking... Sorry, go ahead.
Also, I think
the soldier is the source in this case, and so we're just taking the soldier's interview as his experience.
Wait, hold on. Was this soldier actually interviewed by The Guardian?
I'm not sure, but they are just quoting him. So
well, actually, I did
verified any of this information. I
actually just did get some more info, some more specifics that Destiny wanted. Okay, the statistics collected by the Palestinian Human Rights Monitoring Group show that on May 14, Dia Gawaj, 13, was killed by live bullet. Kamal Ahmad, 13, was shot by Israeli soldiers. May 22, he died May 22nd. So here we have this is in the original article, 2 names of children that were killed during this event.
You can shoot me the article and we can read it if you want. I don't know.
It's the same article. Another soldier, Morsh, told The Guardian that he and his colleagues came under pressure to obey illegal shoot-to-kill orders. As part of his sergeant's training course, he and his fellow trainees were ordered to set up ambush in Jenin in May 23. He said there was pressure to get kills. So we have multiple soldiers.
Wait, this is in Jenin. So there was fighting in Jenin. In Jenin? I don't know how to pronounce this. Jenin? There was fighting in here, yeah. And I think dozens of people got killed in fighting here, yes. This is a different event, though.
No, but he said there was pressure to get kills, like pressure to kill people.
Yeah, but this is in a different area. This is a different story now.
Right, but we're talking about IDF policy. So you're saying that, well, this doesn't seem reasonable that would happen. But now I gave you 2 names of the children that were killed, as well as other soldiers, talking about different areas, right? But where the same thing was taking place, where the orders were. So this wasn't just one crazy, I guess, commander, where there's a pattern of the IDF telling people, like, hey, just shoot people that you see. Like, don't worry so much about
shoot to kill. Hold on, shoot to kill doesn't mean indiscriminately kill. Like, again, and I'm just reading this. Another soldier, Moshe, told The Guardian that he and his colleagues came under pressure to obey illegal shoot to kill orders. Now, when they say illegal shoot to kill orders, I'm hoping that they're going to talk about why they were illegal. What is it? What do we mean when we say that? As part of his sergeant's training course, he and his fellow trainees were ordered to set up ambushes in. Is this Jenin? Does anyone know how to pronounce this? In May 2003, he said there was pressure to get kills. To kill Hamas or to kill civilians? Or why is the quote just pressure to get kills? Okay. Before the operation, the soldiers were briefed that they were on the lookout for armed men, but their targets also included children and teenagers who habitually climbed on armored personnel carriers as they lumbered through the narrow streets. On a few occasions, machine guns had been stolen from ABCs. Doesn't matter. If you are participating in hostilities, you lose your protections as a civilian. That is international. That is...
You think a child planning with a tank, like a 12-year-old who poses no real threat, is just, oh, well, you touched a tank, therefore we're just on shooting them?
Wait.
A child?
Wait.
A 12-year-old?
Is that what we said?
10-year-old?
Wait. Is that what we said?
Well, that seems to be like what you're heavily hinting at.
No, I'm going by exactly what's in the art. Wait, hold on. Moderators, did I say that? Did I just say that if a child is playing with a vehicle?
We need to define engaging in hostilities.
Well, it says their targets included children and teenagers who habitually climbed on APCs as they lumbered through the narrow streets, and on a few occasions, machine guns had been stolen from APCs. So it sounds like the implication is that people are coming through and stealing weapons off of these armored personnel carriers. That's how I read this.
It says that a few times that happened, but there's never once a mention of these people actually trying to pose harm to the tanks. It seems like they were kids fucking around.
How, wait, why would you assume they literally... Wait, when you read these two sentences together, their targets included children and teenagers who habitually climbed on armored personnel carriers as they lumbered through the narrow streets. On a few occasions, machine guns had been stolen from APCs. You think these two sentences are completely unrelated?
Say that one more time.
Do you think that these sentences are completely unrelated?
Which sentences? Say that one more time.
But their targets also included children and teenagers who habitually climbed on armored personnel carriers as they lumbered through the narrow streets. On a few occasions, machine guns had been stolen from APCs.
Do I think they're totally unrelated? No, they are related. But I was disagreeing with your conclusion that, well, yeah, these kids were stealing weapons, which implies that was something that was happening regularly. The point I was just trying to make is that, well, it seems like they said it happened a few occasions, but that wasn't the. You were much more justified to shoot, I guess, a child. I still don't think it's justified, but you're much more justified to shoot a child who's like trying to steal a weapon.
If somebody's trying to steal a weapon, you're engaged. Now you're engaged in hostilities. Yeah, you're part of the enemy military force. Yes,
I'll just grant you that. But the point I was trying to make is that it seems that only happened on occasions, and most of the time the kids were just fucking around with the tanks. 12-year-olds being stupid.
Sure, if that's the case. So in this sentence it says, after a day or two, a 12-year-old climbed on one of the APCs. There were lots of guesses about his age. None of this matters. In any case, he climbed on an APC and one of our sharpshooters killed him. So if he was shot and killed just for climbing on a vehicle, I don't believe that would be justified. If that's the case, if this is what's being said here, then that would probably not be okay. Because I don't think climbing on a vehicle is necessarily taking part in hostilities towards the Janine.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Also, here's another quote from the article. The incident is described to the Guardian and breaking the silence by the soldiers matched deaths recorded by human rights groups and in the media. So again, this was something that I guess the Guardian verified. So there's
then we should be able to see the deaths, and we should be able to look these up and find them.
Well, we have some names. Yeah, we could look up the names of some of the children. If that's what you want to do. For the first one that you gave, I couldn't find anything to see that there was an order given to just kill every person you see. What were you looking for?
Before we even do that, hold on. Destiny's still saying, Destiny, you are saying that them climbing on the tanks means that that the soldiers believe they are likely stealing the weapons, right?
They probably think children have stolen the weapons. That particular child, maybe not. I don't think you could just kill any child you see climbing on a vehicle. I don't think you could do that. I don't think so. You would have to have some reason to believe that they're actually stealing.
Maybe they felt threatened.
Or no, I think it's.
I'm fucking around, bro.
If it was a 17-year-old stealing weapons, do you acknowledge that they could shoot that person, or do you think they have to let them run off with the weapons?
I think at that point it's reasonable to shoot that person.
Okay. What if it was a 14-year-old stealing a weapon?
I think it's
earlier. Destiny, you had two sentences were put together because they were connected, and so it sounded like you were saying because they are connected, they're saying that them climbing on this vehicle meant that they were likely stealing the weapons, and therefore they shot them.
That seems to be the argument given. That would be my guess was the argument given by the IDF. Is there a name for the first kid killed? Can we find this guy? It was a 12-year-old killed.
And Alex, you agreed
there's another
they shot them because they thought that they were stealing the weapons, correct, Alex?
Say that one more time.
You believe that in the article they are saying that they likely shot the kids because they thought that they were stealing weapons, correct?
No, it seems like that happened. So some of the kids were shot because of because they were stealing weapons, but some of them were not stealing weapons, which is why I think they used the term on a few occasions, not that it was happening regularly or this was a regular occurrence. On a few occasions implies that it was not something that happened often. But here's another quote.
Right, I'm asking, it sounds like they say that they think that they are stealing weapons. That's why they said they climbed on the vehicles and that the weapons had been stolen regularly, that they are trying to say that they thought those kids were stealing weapons.
Well, according to the article, only a few of the kids were actually stealing weapons. So here, let me just say this because it's directly related. We were expressly told that we were just waiting for someone to climb on APC in order to shoot to kill. So this is a quote from another soldier that was there. We expressed, or sorry, at a different event, but similar time range, about a year later or less than a year. We were expressly told that we were just waiting for someone to climb on APC in order to shoot to kill, right? So that implies that, like, hey, let's fucking set this bait, and as soon as some little kid climbs on that, we're gonna shoot them, right? If the last thing you want is people climbing on tanks, which I agree, then there should be some kind of deterrent effect. You shouldn't just be
a deterrent effect, like it's a tank.
They're 12-year-old children, bro. 12-year-old children are stupid.
Hold on. A 13-year-old child just climbs on a tank. He has no idea. If they're stupid, then what would aiming a gun at them do? That doesn't even make sense.
What do you mean? You can kill someone that's stupid.
No. You're saying that a 13-year-old doesn't know that climbing on a tank is dangerous?
He probably knows it, but he's also stupid. Like, when teenagers do all kinds of, especially kids that age, do all kinds of stupid things, and they disregard the danger. I did so much fucking stupid shit that I, consciously knew was dangerous. But when you're that age, you think you're like invisible. That's just what part of being a 12-year-old is, a 12-year-old boy specifically. But again, just given the fact that there's also a quote that says, we're supposed to totally just waiting for someone to climb on APC in order to shoot to kill. So why would they be waiting? Why would their order be just wait for someone to climb on APC? Why would that be their order? Just wait.
Because they're trying to kill militants that come through the area?
How would you distinguish if it's a militant or something like that? If it's a child,
like if they interact with military equipment, they climb on top of.
Why would you just wait for their child? Why wouldn't you give the child a warning? Hey, don't climb there. The
warning is that it's a fucking tank. It's a goddamn tank.
Yeah, it's a fucking little child who's fucking around.
How do you know it's a little child who's fucking around? Why would you assume that?
Because it gives the age of the people. There's 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds.
What do you think what does that have to do with anything?
Well, because they're not adults. They don't have that kind of good decision-making power.
How do you think the people are in this picture? I'm just curious.
Which picture are we looking at? Which picture do you want me to look at?
The thing that I just recently linked you.
How old? Well, there's different people. Some of them are older, some of them are younger. I see some that are probably as young as 14 or something like that, and I see some that look like they're like 17. What's
that kid in the back looks like he's like 10. The one behind the kid in the front looks like he's 10 years old.
Okay, we're purely speculating. I don't see how it matters how old that little kid is.
Because you're trying to say that like every 12-year-old in this region is like running around with like bushy hair and he's like super like, oh, like I'm just like a like that's.
Repeat back what you think I'm saying, because you're totally.
You're saying the impression that you were okay. Hold on, appealing moderators. Does it feel like the impression that Alex is giving is that these are just children that are lollygagging through the streets and like climbing on tanks and playing and like having fun as children?
Yeah, that they don't know the danger of it.
Yeah, they have no idea. They don't know the danger of anything.
Right. Yeah. So some of them definitely don't. Right. That's kind of what it seems like. Yeah. A 12-year-old is being stupid and climbing on a tank. I agree with you. It's stupid. I just don't think being stupid is grounds to shoot someone. And you earlier said yourself, literally 10 minutes ago, that if it was true that these are just kids who are climbing on a tank, that would be wrong. That would not be a justified shooting.
I agree. I didn't have this part, though. I didn't know that machine guns were being stolen from APCs. I didn't know that. On a few instances, machines have been stolen. So if they're sending kids out to steal weapons, then those...
On a few incidents, not like something that's happening regularly.
A few implies at least 3. That's pretty regular to me. If kids are stealing machine guns off of our vehicles, why are you assuming that there were way more kids running across vehicles than stealing guns? Where are you getting that?
What do you mean? Where am I getting what?
Why are you just assuming that there were like thousands of kids running across the vehicles, only 3 weapons were stolen? Where are you getting that assumption from?
There were said thousands. I'm just going off what the article says, and says that there were kids climbing on tanks, and a few of them were trying to steal machine guns, right? So it seems like there was a general pattern of that village of kids being stupid and climbing on tanks, and a few of them, which implies that it's a small percentage of them, were actually doing something that would justify potentially a shooting, which is stealing the weapons, right? At the very least, you would wait for that kid to try to steal the weapon. It's not easy to steal a weapon from a tank. You have plenty of time to shoot them.
Maybe they did. I don't know. Maybe they did. I don't even have any information about these killings. That might have actually happened, though.
Why would they say it was happening on few occasions? Why wouldn't they just say we shot them? They were killed when they were trying to steal a weapon. Why would they talk about climbing on a tank?
Because that's where they're stealing the weapons from.
Right, but
Yeah,
what
Alex, earlier you said that you were going to find information that showed the particular incident and had more details on it. I stopped you to ask about this specific part just to make sure that you actually believed that it sounded like they were shooting them because they thought that they were stealing the weapons. As long as you believe that, then I would go look for the information.
Can somebody here? I'm
Yeah,
giving you guys this name in chat. Can somebody just find me? I try to Google this name, and all it does is it points back to this same article. Can somebody find me this killing, or if you can search in Hebrew or Arabic? Can somebody find me this killing?
You just search in Arabic, but yeah, this doesn't seem like it was a super publicized incident. And also,
A 14 and a 13-year-old child being killed in the West Bank wouldn't be a publicized incident?
I don't believe this is the West Bank. I think this is Gaza.
No, this is in the West Bank.
Let me see. I'll just grant you that. No, it says or to enter the Gaza town of Deir al-Bara. So no,
Wasn't this the one in Yanin?
It says literally Gaza town in the article that we're discussing. Gaza town, Deir al-Balah.
What? Wait.
In the article, it says
No, the ones with the 13 and the one in the 13 and the 14-year-old.
Okay, so the initial thing we're discussing is the Gaza town.
Well, in the Gaza town, I don't think any name is given at all, so I'm not looking for that.
Let's just assume that it was the second incident is the West Bank town. I don't see how it matters at all whether it was in Gaza or West Bank.
I didn't say it mattered. I didn't say it mattered at all. You corrected me. I said I think it was in the West Bank, and you said no, it was in Gaza. I was correcting you. I don't.
Okay. Well, we're both right in our own ways because we're talking about different things. Okay, so you're saying, well, there's not much information. There's important things you have to keep in mind. Number one is that this was 2002. Way before the internet was what it is now, where everything is documented, everyone has a camera. I know the internet exists at that point, but we have to acknowledge that it was not even remotely.
Hold on, wait, how old are you?
34.
Okay, I'm 35. We both lived in 2002. It wasn't the Stone Age. What are we talking about right now?
Nope. Did I say it was a Stone Age?
No, deaths of children are being recorded. That's why we have specific names of these children in the immediate paragraph afterwards.
It wasn't as common back then. There was no or it was very rarely you had a cell phone video. I don't even believe we had cell phone cameras at that point. It wasn't as common.
Well, I'm saying that names and incidents are being recorded, of course. We can talk about massacres going back through the 1900s in this region of the world. There you've seen are massacres that are happening. Like,
but you're going to see a lot more. You're going to see a lot more information about massacre that happens now than massacre that happened 22 years ago. Because again, we're living in a different world of technology. Like that's the difference. This is the difference between the people have said this. The difference between the war in Iraq and the war, this Gaza war. Because in the war in Iraq, there wasn't like camera footage that was coming
I'm not asking for camera footage. I'm not asking for camera footage.
Let me just finish. There wasn't as much information coming in, which is why it made it easier for the gatekeepers of information, which is the big newspapers and news channels, to kind of keep the reality of the war from us. And most people didn't really come around to the fact that there was no weapons of mass destruction, blah, 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 until 3 or 4 years later. Versus with this war, as soon as something happens, there's literally almost instantly or within 2 or 3 days, a video of it or an account of it. So information sharing has become a lot easier. So that's, I think, what the first reason is. Second of all, there's been a lot of people who've been killed in Gaza, West Bank, whether we say justified or not. There's been a lot of people killed. So I don't expect this to have the name of every single person. Third of all,
it has the names. That's why I want an article about them dying.
Some people. We just don't have the name of every single person.
I'm not asking for the names of every single person. The names of the 2 children that were killed are listed here. The statistics collected by the Palestinian Human Rights Monitoring Group show that on May 14th, Dia Gawadreh, 13, was killed by a live bullet, and Kamal Amhad Nawada, 13, was shot by Israeli soldiers on May 22nd. He died on May 22nd. So we have the 2 names. I'm just asking if there's an article about them. That's all. I'm just curious if there's an article or a news report or anything related to them so that I could look up information about how they died. That's all I'm curious about.
Yeah. There might be in Arabic, probably most likely, like typically the stuff that's
okay. So if we were trying to research to figure out the validity of something that's happened, that's what we would look for. We wouldn't just go by a single quote or a line or a sentence in this article. We would actually try to find the original source material to see, like, oh, well, where was the report of this person who got killed?
Real quick, if we can't find that information, the point is that if we can't find that information, we don't actually know really what happened in that scenario, and therefore we can't come to any conclusions.
Well, not even. I wouldn't like completely throw it out. Like I'd add it to my bank of stuff, but I'm just saying that, like, I'm not going to. Sure. This is a really strong claim being made. So I just want to find a news article about it, not like anonymous testimony given to Breaking the Silence, who are dumping this to, The Guardian.
That's what I'm saying, is that you're not willing to come to a conclusion based on whether or not it's indiscriminate and based on whether or not that order's telling them to just shoot everybody, that this was actually...
Yeah, I just want some like good evidence, some good proof, some good anything for any of this.
So I found another source.
So I was going to say, the argument is that we didn't have enough articles written about these things back then, and therefore we can't get more information.
No, I never said we can't. I'm just showing another source. I never said we can't. I just think it's less likely to happen, just because we immediately can't find an article that talks about these people's names doesn't mean that didn't happen. I'm not saying it's impossible. I think also, again, like what Destiny said earlier, I think being able to search this in Arabic would probably get us more likely to get us good results. So I just shared another thing. I don't know how convincing you're going to find this, but here it is. So it's from, okay, here's another source. I'll pull this up.
Sure. My point is that if we can't find more information, we can't actually come to any conclusions here, and we would have.
We just disagree on the validity of that soldier's testimony, especially. And I think what really buttresses it is the fact there's other soldiers talking about separate incidents but describing the same thing. But again, to Destiny, that's like, whatever. It's not really that convincing. To me, especially when given the larger context, that there's a bunch of other soldiers coming out and essentially saying something very similar. That to me, I can't say it's 100% certain, but that to me seems pretty convincing. And then combine that with the fact that there's literally videos of you can see a child just getting murked. Like when you combine all this information, to me it seems like, yeah, the soldier is probably telling the truth. I don't see why he would lie about this. It doesn't seem like he has any dog in this fight. He's a former IDF soldier. Why should we not trust former IDF soldiers when it comes to IDF policies? Like who else are we going to trust? Would the IDF assess their policies are?
The fact that you can't even fathom how an anonymous individual soldier who's discharged from the military might say something, I don't even know what to say. Like you're like, oh well, this obviously was 100% true. It's like,
sometimes information doesn't get out or doesn't get out until much later. For example, with WikiLeaks, the Patriot whatever thing was happening for a long time, but it wasn't until actually Julian Assange fucking risked his shit, essentially now that backfired on him, to release that. So you can't always expect every single piece of controversy to get out. There's a lot of incidents that you don't get the information on, at least not until 50 years later. Sometimes you never get. There's a lot of
I'm not asking for every single piece. What I've been told over and over again, here's the issue. And again, the issue is that you don't understand the strength of the claim you're making. I've been told over and over again that for 100 years, Israel's had a top-down policy to indiscriminately kill civilians, and the order's been given multiple times across multiple units, and this happens over and over and over again. That's what I've been told. If that's the case, it should be incredibly easy to point to events where this is happening. Not, well, there's anonymous testimony from one soldier, and it was reported in The Guardian, and here's the names of the two children killed, but I don't have a news article, I don't have any information about it, I don't have any. There should be thousands of these stories of, holy shit, here's an event where a guy gets killed for no fucking reason. Well, it wouldn't be us arguing for an hour, hold on, let me finish. It wouldn't be us arguing for an hour and a half of 3 hostages coming out of a building engaged in active conflict, shot by another guy who couldn't even hear the orders because he's actually actively firing tank in a war zone. We wouldn't be talking about this. You'd be saying, Destiny, what do you think about this video where 11 civilians are standing on the side of the road and the IDF goes down and they shoot each one of these people in the head for no reason? That's what we'd be talking about. Not these like digging through anonymous testimony from 22 years ago in the Second Intifada. That's my issue. Wouldn't you expect to see way more evidence of this happening? Like when we're talking about Russia's activities in Ukraine, nobody's like, find me a single building that's been destroyed for no reason. We've got whole cities that are being fucking destroyed. We've got whole mass grave sites of people being murdered and thrown into graves. We're not looking around for like, oh my God, where's the apartment complex being blown up? Like that's what's happening. Like,
literally the same thing. Okay, first of all, I have no idea why you're screaming. Okay, that's the first thing. Second of all, this was one incident that I referenced, and I was not talking about the actual incident itself so much as the soldier's testimony, because I was trying to make a broader point about what the IDF's policies are. So I was just relying on the soldier's testimony. You're saying, well, there should be more instances of this happening. Absolutely. We've only gone through 2, but I can pull them up. Well, this is actually 1. I can pull them up. Like right now, I can show you an example of this happening. Everything you're describing, a pretty precise example of this happening. So do you want to just move on to that? Since that seems to be the thing you're asking.
It doesn't seem like you've read any of the shit that you're sending me. Like you're just giving me a news article.
I've read it. I just don't recall the specific name of the village. I didn't think I would need to like know.
It's not even the name of the village. You don't know who the soldier is. You don't know where the report comes from. You don't know what breaking the silence is. You don't know what the context of any of this violence. Like what?
What do you mean? I know his. Do I need to know his like middle and last name?
You don't know if it's an anonymous testimony or an actual known soldier. That's a big deal. Is it not? You don't think it's a big deal or not? If it's an anonymous source versus like an actual known soldier?
Not really, because I think in these situations, it's best to stay anonymous. So if I was in his shoes, I would probably stay anonymous as well. I mean, there's literally, he could carry legal repercussions and potentially go to jail. I don't know. I don't believe there's a statute of limitations in Israel. I don't know. But if there's no statute of limitations, he could legit go to jail. He's admitting to a crime. So of course he would stay anonymous. That's typically how it works in the situation where you commit a crime. You're not going to publicly just rub it in people's faces. Yeah, I killed these soldiers. So probably
he's not rubbing it in people's faces. He's informing. He's reporting. He's leaking. Like,
I'm being hyperbolic, but the point is, you would want to stay anonymous. Is that unreasonable? Would you want to go public and say your real name and admit to carrying out a crime? How would that make sense for any reasonable person?
What do you mean? How would? Because there'd be more credibility behind the report.
And at the expense of him going to jail or facing other.
Does he? We don't even know. Okay, all right.
So you think that if a soldier clearly admits to a crime from 20 years ago, that there's not a good chance they will suffer repercussions for that?
It's possible. That's not what we're arguing. We're arguing over whether or not it would make the report more credible.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that I think it would be unreasonable to expect most people in that situation to come out publicly when they're personally admitting being involved in a crime. Typically, when people admit to a crime, they stay anonymous.
He's not going to be persecuted for this crime. He'd be prosecuted for leaking, if that's a fucking thing that the Israeli military.
That would be another thing he would be prosecuted for. How would, at the end of the day, he would most likely be prosecuted. Why would he want that? Why would he want to be prosecuted for this?
Sure, that's fine. I'm just saying. Do you agree? Hold on. Do you agree that it's more credible when there's a name behind the report, or less credible?
Depends on the circumstances. In this situation, I think it's largely irrelevant.
Okay, then we're just in different worlds. Hold on, to the moderators, can I get a ruling? Do you think that it's reasonable to say that a named source is more credible than an anonymous source in this situation?
I mean, yeah, I think generally you're looking for more information, right? That's why you want the name, is so that you can actually find out whether or not who they are, that they're a real person, that these events actually.
Do you think in most of these situations where there's someone's admitting a crime, they're going to stay anonymous?
That's not the question. That's not even remotely. Wait, that's not the question at all. My question was, do you think a named source is more reliable than an anonymous source? That's the question.
Well, he's talking about he's talking about the reliability of the information that you're giving him. So just as you're saying, like, hey, there's a pattern of behavior here where we keep seeing the same things in information about this coming out to where I'm more likely to believe it. He's saying, hey, over and over, we keep seeing stories, but we don't actually have enough information to verify these things, and we don't actually know whether or not they're taking place. And so he sees a pattern of behavior where he's not actually capable of knowing whether or not these events happen.
So generally, I agree with Destiny that a named source is always better, but I think the one exception is if you're admitting to a crime, because I think pretty much every single person or most people in that situation would want to stay anonymous. Like, why would the soldier want to share his name and admit to a crime and potentially go to jail? Like, why would he want to do that?
So let me ask you.
Wait. Why would he want to do that? Maybe he wants to do the right thing. What?
Yeah, because most people want to go to jail, want to be martyrs.
And most people want to be in an active combat zone and get killed by terrorists. What do you mean? The guy's already serving in an active combat zone. It's unfathomable that he might want to inform on or report what's going on in his...
He's a former soldier. He's not a current soldier.
Well, yes, he was a soldier. He had the braveness to go and be a soldier in an active battle area.
Everyone has to be a soldier. You get automatically conscripted in Israel. Everyone has to be a soldier.
He was deployed in active combat.
Right, but he didn't have any say in that matter, bro. In Israel, everyone gets conscripted. They have like.
Sure, but I'm saying that, like, yeah, but he still did it. So you don't think if he was able to perform in combat operations, he wouldn't have the bravery later to come out and report that they're just murdering children for no reason?
Well, he did. He just didn't want to do it publicly.
Okay, real quick. Destiny earlier
the only
said
point of that is to convince Destiny the source is more credible.
Alex,
it's absolutely no benefit for him. Yeah.
Alex, earlier Destiny said that if this was the case, that we would have dozens and dozens of like pretty clear cases of this where it would be pretty blatant.
We'd have hundreds or thousands.
In this case, yes, we don't have like enough information to verify. You said that you do have those cases and that you have the ones that are very blatant. I feel like we should have started with those.
Sure, I can literally just move on to it right now. Okay, so let me see which one I want to go with. Okay, let's go with this one. Okay.
In this Guardian article where it says Kamal Amyad Nawada, 13, was shot by Israeli soldiers, I'm looking at what Alex linked. I don't know if you read what you linked me, but you linked me was a thing that shows a bunch of people that I guess got killed. And here they say the age was 15. In the Guardian article, it says 13. So even in what you've linked me, there's already a discrepancy between what's in the story and what's on this website that you sent me.
Are you looking at the same exact name?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, there could be any number of explanations. Maybe one of these websites made a mistake based on the age of the person. And the other explanation is they're talking about two different people who have similar names.
They're absolutely not talking about two separate people. But here is from the Guardian article, and then here's from the source that you sent me. Like, even in this, there's a discrepancy. Not saying that the kid didn't actually die or anything, but...
The name is spelled differently. It's spelled with a BDA, and here's HDA. So the name is spelled differently.
That's common. It happens.
I mean, so it's common that names get misspelled, but it's not common that there's two people who have a similar name.
It's common that there are different spellings for names like Muhammad and stuff like that. It's not common that two children...
It's not Muhammad. It's his last name. The last name...
I don't even think... Is the last name even spelled differently?
Yes. Nawabda versus Nawahda. There's a difference in spelling.
First of all... Hold on.
The most likely...
No, stop. Hold on. You don't know any Arabic names. So one, there are differences in spelling, sometimes even significant, okay? Could that be the case in this case? Possibly, number one.
Why would they take the same person?
Stop. Hold on. The second and most important, well, there's another most important thing. The second most important thing is there are two children that died in May of the same year that are around the same age in the same area. There is no shot that this is a random coincidence of a guy whose name is completely identical everywhere except for that one letter. That's the second most important thing. Truly, that should have been the first place our mind goes to. But the third most important thing is his name is spelled with an H every time. There is no B here. I don't know where you're getting the B spelling at. It's always with an H.
Literally, so in the screenshot that you sent me, the first screenshot before I sent my screenshot, the thing that you highlighted. Just look at what you sent me and you highlighted.
Yes, that is Nawahda.
Wait, hang on a second. No, it's N-A... Wait, do I just have shit on my screen? Oh, yeah, I just had shit on my screen. It was blocking. Okay, I'll withdraw that. Yeah, I had some shit on my screen.
Sure, but even if the spelling was different, it's two kids killed in the same area, around the same age, at the same time. Like, it's clearly the same person.
Yeah, so I think the most likely explanation for this, in my opinion, is that the second source, which doesn't seem to be really that good, it's just some random thing I pulled up because you said you want to see another source where it's talking about this, it just made some mistakes. That's
why do we think this source isn't good? We don't know anything about this source.
Because this seems like some random fucking website versus The Guardian.
Well, but we don't even know what this site is. It looks like this is a site that documents deaths between for Palestinian children. It seems like that's what the goal of this site is.
Okay, let me pull it up one more time. I mean, do you think this is like a really good site? The first thing that you see is donate. It just seems to be like something that someone put together in their basement. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think this carries nearly as much weight as The Guardian.
Do you think that this site might look like this because you just gave me a whole ass explanation about how in 2002 everything looked a lot different? Don't you think this kind of looks like a standard website that was probably built in the year like fucking 2003 or 2002?
Well, this website goes up to 2014, so they definitely had time to update their shit. But what do you think? Okay, let me just ask you.
Also, you linked me this website. I don't know why you're saying it's a bad source now when you linked it to me.
I'm not saying it's a bad source. You just said you want to see another website talking about these children. I sent you that, and I prefaced what I'm about to say with, well, this website just casually mentions their name. There's no really definitive info on that, so take that with a grain of salt. So that's why I sent it to you. I just wanted to show you another place that was talking about bad kids, so you can see it's just not on The Guardian. And to me, the most likely explanation is this site got the age of the person wrong. What do you think is the explanation? Why do you think there's a discrepancy in age?
Why is there a discrepancy in age? My guess is going to be that finding information, if you don't speak in Arabic or if you don't speak Hebrew, some of this information is probably only really going to be reported locally if it's not part of a big massacre or something. So who we would trust is going to come down to the I guess the type. I probably will scroll up. What's the author here? Kanal Urquhart. It says in Tel Aviv, so I'm assuming this is an Israeli writer. Then I would hope for The Guardian that they know enough to verify the name of the dead person. That would be my hope on this. This other site, I'm guessing, is probably pulling information from local obituaries. That would be my guess. So somebody recorded the information wrong. I don't know who I would lean in on trusting without anything else because I can't find any other information about these people that are dead.
Yeah. So then I don't disagree with anything you said at all. I think what you said is spot on. So do you want to move on to you asked for more explicit examples? We have more information.
Sure, I got time for like one more, but also just give me the best example you have. I don't know why we went through examples that we don't have much information. Just give me the best example you have.
Okay, the best example I have. It depends on how you look at it. So what parameters? Just explain to me what you think would be a good example, so then I can
like an instance of a killing that's clearly unjustified, where the soldier should have known better, and he's clearly made a huge mistake here. Bonus points if it's indicative of bad IDF policy, but I guess at one like where we can agree that like, oh yeah, this would probably be considered a war crime, and this was an improper behavior by a soldier that had no reason to act in the way that he did.
Okay, I think honestly I have so many, but I think this is probably gonna be the best one. Okay, so why don't you just start off by playing the video I sent you, and then I'll kind of explain how it relates to the article and whatnot.
Is this violent or?
It's violent, but I don't think it's gonna get you in trouble. It's just Reddit. It's not
put it
like
in the chat?
it's nothing that it's nothing that I haven't seen on YouTube a million times.
Is there one of these on YouTube or?
I can try to find it.
Okay, here I'm just gonna play this. I'm gonna put my beer back screen on. Hold on,
This is the Ask Middle East video.
Yeah, I see, but I don't know if this is like a super bloody fucked up video.
It's not super bloody. Tom, do you want to look at it on your own to give your assessment, maybe?
Okay, a sister was filming her brother and teased him, saying, "This is silly, Taha." She ended up capturing his murder on video. Taha Mohammed, 15, was fatally shot by Israeli forces.
Shot from a distance.
His father, who was also shot when he tried to reach Taha and help him, is seen in the final seconds of the video getting up. Okay.
Can we play the video, or what's the deal? We can.
I'm playing it. I'm watching it.
Okay, I just can't see it, but.
Well, no, yeah, because it's on my computer.
Wait, so can people see it on your stream, or is it just you that can see it?
I don't know if I can show people getting shot on stream. Okay, I don't think this is that bloody, but okay, here we go.
I think it's fine. I'm being honest. I would never want to.
Yeah, I don't think you would have touched him, but okay, this is the video. There's a guy standing out here. Assuming this kid got shot.
Well, it's pretty clear.
Okay, just to reiterate, this is our best evidence, right?
Well, it ties into it. I just want to show you the video, and then I'm going to explain to you how it ties into everything, because there's a lot of information on this. So this is actually, this happened in the West Bank. This is one part of multiple killings of children and civilians that happened in the West Bank.
Let's focus on one. Focus on one.
Since the start of, let me just explain the overall picture, then you can question me on one. So this is a series of West Bank killings, presumably unjustified, according to the report that was done, of people that were killed in the West Bank since the start of the war. So this isn't like 10, 15 years ago. So here we have, I'm going to show you this article, but Amnesty International did a detailed analysis investigating 4 emblematic cases where the Israeli forces used unlawful lethal force. Three incidents in October and 1 November, which include the unlawful killing of 20 Palestinians, including 7 children. Researchers remotely interviewed the 12 people, 10 of them eyewitnesses, including first respondents and local residents. The organization's Crisis Evidence Lab verified 19 videos and 4 photos in examining these 4 incidents. And so basically, here's if you want to keep going, I'll send you the article. But essentially found out that there's like chain of incidents in the West Bank, which is not an active war zone, where a whole bunch of innocent civilians got murked. So if you want to just pull this up.
Okay, so firstly, it seems like this was something active was going on here.
But we agree that Gaza is not on the same scale of activeness as West Bank is not on the same scale of danger and activeness like Gaza does not control the West Bank. I mean, Hamas does not control the West Bank. It's a more, let's just say, tame environment than
I agree, it is a more tame environment, but this particular area seemed to be pretty active. The reason why this brother was out of the house is because it seemed like he was looking to see if soldiers had fled, if soldiers had left.
Yeah, he wanted to see if it was safe to get out of the house. Which just go through the article and you'll kind of see how it's outlined. Or do you want to just read it out loud? It's up to you.
What did you link? Hold on.
Amnesty.org.
Among those killed during the raid. Okay, scroll up. Since October 7th, Israeli forces have stepped up raids, carrying them out almost daily across the occupied West Bank in what is described as search and arrest operations. Over 54% of the 4,382 Palestinians injured in the West Bank were injured during such operations, according to OCHA. In one illustrative case, investigated by Amnesty International, Israeli military and border police forces used excessive force during a 30-hour-long raid on Noor Shams refugee camp in Tulkarem beginning on the 19th of October. During the operation, Israeli forces killed 13 Palestinians, including 6 children. 4 of them under the age of 16, and arrested 15 people. Israeli military sources quoted in media reports said that 1 Israeli border police officer was killed and 9 were injured after an improvised explosive device was thrown at them by Palestinians. Residents told Amnesty International that during the operation, Israeli soldiers stormed more than 40 residential homes, destroying personal belongings and drilling holes in the walls for sniper outposts. Water and electricity to the camp was cut off, and soldiers used bulldozers to destroy public roads, electricity networks, and water infrastructure.
Are you skipping ahead? Because are you picking paragraphs, or where are you starting from?
I started on since the 7th of October, Israeli forces have stepped up raids. And then I'm looking at this first killing. Among those killed during the raid was 15-year-old Taha Mohammed. That's the killing that you showed me on video, who Israeli forces shot dead in front of his house as he came out to check whether Israeli forces had left the area. Taha was unarmed and posed no threat to the soldiers at the time he was shot, based on witness testimony, so his family, and videos reviewed by Amnesty International. A video filmed by one of his sisters and verified by Amnesty's Crisis Evidence Lab shows Taha walking on the street, peeking to check for the presence of soldiers, and then collapsing on the street outside his house after the sound of 3 gunshots.
Yeah. Was that a justified shooting in your opinion?
I don't know. I don't have any information about this. You give me a video that starts literally the moment he gets shot, or within like seconds of him getting shot.
In the video, you see him going outside. Yeah, there's like 5 seconds, or maybe even, was it 5 or 10 seconds, where he's just leaving his house. He's going outside, where he's just left outside. He's walking on the street.
Here's a question: What is it? What is the guy holding next to him? His dad. What is his dad holding in his hand next to him?
Let me double check and look at this video. 1 second. I need to open it on my end. Okay. Let me watch it on my end.
Because it looks like he's about to throw it at like 6 seconds. It's hard to tell because the footage is pretty bad, but
let me take a look. It could be. It's not even 100% clear that he's holding something. If he is, it could be a cell phone. It could be a million things, but it doesn't look like it's big. It's certainly not a gun.
Be. Yeah, could be anything. Yeah. Earlier in this article by Amnesty.org, it said that 1 soldier had already been killed by an improvised explosive device.
Yes. Before the raid.
So, if that's the case, if Israeli soldiers had told these people to stay inside, and then they see men coming out of the home, and they look like they're about to throw something, does this look like...
to stay inside? Is there any evidence of that they were told to stay inside?
That's going to be my guess, based on the fact that these guys are looking to see if soldiers were gone. They're both walking cautiously outside of their house, and they already have somebody inside Pallywood Productions recording the event. So yeah, my guess is they were probably told to stay inside. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, 15-year-old.
Also, the recording you have here, the headline on all of this, by the way, and this should be a huge red flag to you, all of this is a lie. A sister was filming her brother and teased him. A Palestinian girl recording and teasing her 15-year-old brother. They're not. This isn't a teasing happy situation. Did you
listen to the audio?
Don't care. Do you speak Arabic? Like
you can tell emotion. Just listen to the audio. It's pretty clear. You can see her going from haha to being super duper distraught. You can literally see the emotion in her voice.
Yeah, but you can also see that the people leaving the house are like scouting. They know that It looks like they know that they're probably not supposed to be here, or like it literally says in the video, they're seeing if soldiers have left yet.
What do you? Yeah, because they want to see if it's safe to go outside yet or not. Going outside and checking to see if the IDF is there is not in any way a justification for being shot.
I don't know what else they were doing. I don't know if these guys were involved in attacks. I don't know if the IDF thought these guys were involved in attacks.
Well, that's why this video alone probably wouldn't be that much. But then we have the context of the article, which says that they interviewed 12 people, 10 of them eyewitnesses, including first responders and local residents. And the Organization of Crisis Evidence verified 19 videos and 4 photos examining these 4 incidents.
So hold on. So you don't believe the IDF as an apparatus. You won't trust the IDF, but you'll trust the family's testimony or other Palestinians in the village here?
Well, I'm not. There's also. Did you miss the part about 19 videos and 4 photos?
Okay, where are the video footages showing something stronger than this? Because here, what it looks like, without any preloading, although I guess it's impossible either, it looks like you've got 2 guys that are scouting outside their house looking for something going on. The guy on the right looks like he's got something in his hand to throw. You've already had multiple, like, so... What?
Pure speculation.
What?
Pure speculation.
Wait. Hold on, wait. Okay, hold on, wait. We'll call moderators. Oh, God, this is what I see. Hold on, actually, also, let me listen. You said there was teasing this video?
I said that initially it was a playful vibe, and then you can see the...
Show me, play this video and tell me which part is teasing and playful.
I never said it was teasing and playful. I just said the vibe radically changed. It's initially, again, I don't speak Arabic.
Wait. Tell me where the vibe changes. Because in the very beginning of the video, it already sounds like she's like worried and nervous.
Okay, give me a second and I will tell you. 1 second. .06 seconds. You can hear in the first 2-3 seconds that she's speaking very quietly. There's no emotion. 0.06 seconds. She literally starts screaming as if she's been shot in the face and she's bleeding.
Yeah, it sounds like she's speaking quietly because she knows that they can't give away what's going on, and you can hear sirens in the fucking background.
So, what is that justification for being shot?
I didn't say it was, but I said it should be a huge red flag to you that this headline is a complete and total fabrication. And even the thing on the video here, this headline up top, is a lie. This is a Pallywood production title. A Palestinian girl recording and teasing her 15-year-old brother ends up capturing his death on camera. That's not what's happening. It looks like 2 people are going out of the house to scout the IDF out. One guy looks like he has something in his hand to throw, and somebody's recording it ahead of time with sirens going off in the background in a town where an Israeli soldier has already been killed and 9 have been injured.
Okay, hold on. Wait, hold on. Destiny, are you saying that they're trying to make this sound like it's an innocent, goofy,
of course,
like,
yes,
hang around
and Alex bought it hook, line, and sinker because he literally said, Alex literally said it sounds like she's teasing him.
Whereas, hold on, and then instead, it's what you're saying is happening is that it's actually a very tense, cautious situation where they're looking for militants and people with guns, and like it's a dangerous situation, and it sounds like very tense instead.
I just want to know what part of the headline is incorrect. Factually.
A sister was filming her brother and teased him, saying, "This is silly, haha."
Do you
or taha?
From a vibe perspective, it seems like it makes sense. Do you know Arabic? Do you know that's not what happened? You can clearly see the change.
How is she teasing her brother, whispering at him from 100 yards away?
Not teasing. Oh my God, dude! Not teasing him like directly. Obviously, he can't hear her. That's clearly and obvious. Which I think she means is that she was in the video. She was going to tease him about this whole thing, and it seems like she's speaking she's very calm and relaxed. Right? It doesn't seem like there's any distress in her voice.
Hold on. I don't know if you know what people sound like. She sounds like she's whispering.
We don't know how good the audio is. It seems like she's just quietly talking to the camera. It doesn't seem like she's whispering.
Multiple Arabic people are putting in my chat. The translation of what she says in the beginning is, "Here's Taha, what an idiot." Then the gunshots happen.
So that's literally teasing.
Or she knows he's going out into an active combat area. It's not teasing. That's not teasing. What do you think teasing means? Teasing is like playful, lighthearted, like, oh, ha, ha, ha. Not like, oh my God, this guy's gonna go out and fucking die.
That's not what she said. Here's my brother. He's an idiot, right? That implies she's teasing him. How's that not?
We're in a different world. I don't think you're being good faith at this point. No. Hold on. To the moderators. In any world, does that sound like teasing to you? Is that a description? And I could be wrong. I could be poisoned here.
Why is she asking? Why is she calling him an idiot? Why do you think she's saying?
Because she thinks he's about to fucking die to the IDF.
Well, I think that if she thought that, she'd probably be like, "Hey, don't fucking go outside."
Well. Yeah, but it sounds like that's what she thinks, is that he's an idiot for going outside because he might get shot.
You can hear sirens in the background. You see both of them cautiously approaching out into the street. The guy in the back has something in his hand.
What am I not being good faith about? Just explain that to me, and then we'll move on to what other things.
Because at the very least, what we can reason, obviously, in this video is we know that these two people are approaching with extreme caution because they know there's a good chance that something bad will happen. We know that the person inside who's recording also knows that something really bad could happen. That's why she's speaking quietly. That's why she called him an idiot. And that's why she's like stealthily recording from behind whatever she's near. And that's why when the first guy gets dropped, the second guy around him is like more alert. He's not like, oh God, I got shot from nowhere. Because he knows that they're like in an active fucking combat zone. That's what's happening here. That's without making any assumption at all. That's like pretty basic, reasonable induction for what's going on in this event.
Yeah, so anyone living in the West Bank when there's a raid on their village, or someone in Gaza, even the escaped Israeli hostages are super cautious. Everyone would be cautious in that situation. Of course, I would be cautious in that situation too. Of course, there's a presumed danger. No one's denying that. But you're disagreeing with the premise that like this girl knew that her brother was about to die.
I don't know if she knew he was about to die, but she knew that something bad could happen.
Like, if you take everything into account, you take her vibe. Like, I think if she had a good feeling her brother was going to die, she'd be like, oh my God, she'd be like really worried. She wouldn't be like, oh yeah, he's an idiot.
It doesn't actually matter if she's teasing or not. Like, it could be a misrepresentation one way or the other. But as to whether or not this is an indiscriminate shooting, like, do we have any information on like the IDF soldiers that shot him, or like what their reasoning was, or anything like that?
What the IDF's defense is?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we know that on the 19th, or I'm sorry, on this date, on the 19th of October, the 18th of October, police say 10 officers were wounded in an explosion during IDF raid in Tulkarem. So I think one ended up dying. So IEDs have been used here. It's during a raid.
Two wrongs don't make a right.
What?
Two wrongs don't make a right.
What part of this is two wrongs make a right?
You're creating a justification of why they killed him.
I'm creating a reasonable expectation for them to think these people might have been engaged in violent activity, hostilities.
It's a fucking 15-year-old walking outside. But also, I don't want us to get too bogged down the 15-year-old, because this article isn't just about the 15-year-old.
Wait, you were supposed to present the banger.
This is what all of the Pallywood evidence looks like. It's always stuff like this every single time.
Yeah. So, okay. So the problem is you're starting with the premise that the IDF would never do something like this, and then that leads to the conclusion, oh, it's probably all deliberate. Oh,
I didn't start.
Whatever.
I'm letting you give me the videos. I've never seen any of this. You have so much time to prep and get the best examples. You gave me a 37-second video where the title makes it sound like a sister's kind of like teasing her brother, and then out of nowhere, the evil IDF comes by and executes a poor Muslim boy for no reason. That's what the title leads me to believe. That's what the top text of this leads me to believe. And then when I play the video, I don't have any context. It's just 37 seconds of who knows how much recording where a boy...
It's just the report. Like, I don't know why you keep, like, misinterpreting this.
Wait, this is what you linked me first.
It's because it was an example from that report.
Stop, hold on. You linked me this and you told me to watch this video before I read the report. You explicitly said that. You said, watch this video, then
I knew as soon as you read the report, you were going to be, is there video evidence? So I wanted to show you that.
No. So, okay, that's fine. So I'm walking you through my thought process. So I watched.
You know that there's a larger context. You know there's a report.
Yes. Now that I know there's larger, yes. Now that I see there's larger context, I see that there was an ongoing military activity going on here. I see that explosives and guns had been used by the IDF. So now when I come back and look at this video, now I'm looking at it in a different light. I see two men are walking out from a video, walking out in a building on video. It looks like they're peeking around looking for the IDF. The guy in the back looks like he has something in his hand. I don't know if he does or doesn't. I don't know if the IDF would know if he does or doesn't, but none of this is random or like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. All of this seems like pretty expected.
This in your, just to clarify, this was a justified shooting?
I don't know. I don't have the perspective information from the IDF at the time, and I don't have any real information here. It's a 37-second video.
You have the report, a detailed report that was written.
Wait, a detailed report? Wait, where is the detailed report?
Literally in the article from Amnesty that I linked you.
Yeah, the detailed report is testimony from the family and the videos they took and them saying he was no threat. You don't trust the IDF as an apparatus, but you trust the family of the killed person?
You're being so bad faith right now, or you're either strawmanning me. I don't know what exactly is going on. So it's not just a testimony from the family, testimony from first responders, testimony from other people that were there. 12 videos, apparently, a bunch of photos. They combine all that information together to come up with the story that they're saying here, right? It's not just testimony. It's not like the dad said they killed him, right? They're looking at all the videos, all the photos, all the people who testified, including first responders.
And then there were no first
argument that Well, I need Alex to make the argument that it is an unjustified shooting.
I don't even know what first responders, what would they even be able to say? Like, we showed up after he got shot and we knew he wasn't a threat to the IDF. Like, what was a first responder even saying here?
That's what I'm asking. I need, like, yes, make the argument.
Look, if he had something in his hand, for example, if your conclusion is true that he had some kind of weapon in his hand, that's something they could probably see. They could see, there's a number of things. Like, was it a headshot or was it like...
Why would that matter? If it's a headshot,
it's more likely they're trying to shoot to kill.
Yeah, no, everybody shoots to kill. Yeah, that's how shooting works. You're killing people.
Okay, fine. They could see if there's a grenade in his arm or something like that, right? So the fact that the first responders and none of the videos, and no one said there was a grenade in his hand, I think it's pretty likely he did not have a grenade in his hand, unless every single person's lying.
Wait, how? Or the guy just literally took it out of his pocket. How would that be that hard to do?
So, okay, let me just get this straight. So, two guys are outside, 15-year-olds. One of them gets smirked in the head, killed, and you think his friend's first reaction is like, oh, let me search through his pockets. You really think that's what the friend would do?
I mean, if you look at the video, that seems kind of almost what's happening, yeah.
You see the friend going through his shit?
No, he's trying to see if it's safe to, though. The guy, okay, do you agree that it would be reasonable that if you watch
I see the friend running away, bro.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Well, let's watch the whole video. It's 37 seconds, okay? At 3 seconds, his friend gets dropped, and then he backs up a few steps, and then what does he do right after? 5 seconds, is it safe to approach? He's looking, he takes a few steps closer, he looks a little bit closer, and then, he's kind of getting closer, he wants to touch his friend, maybe, he looks back to the window, then there's a cut, and now he's gone. What happened? I don't know. What part of this is him running away?
Keep going. Keep watching.
After the cut? I don't know, but I don't care now. Now we got a totally different cut. I don't know what's happening past this point.
It's the same people, is it not?
Yeah, but from the cut, I don't know what happened to the cut. Oh, wait, and even in the cut, it looks like he was trying to go near the person. I don't know what he's trying to do with the body. Maybe he's just trying to bring it back.
What do you think is more likely? That he's trying to steal a grenade from him that there's no evidence for, or he wants to see if his friend is dead? He wants to see if there's any sense in dragging him somewhere. He wants to see if his friend is alive. What do you think is more reasonable there? Number one,
for Pallywood Productions, probably trying to get evidence off his body in case the idea comes back. That'd be my guess.
If you start with the assumption that every piece of evidence that comes out on the other side is fake, then I guess that would be a logical conclusion. But if you start from a neutral premise, which is like, hey, I don't really know if the IDF would do something like this. I don't really know if
the neutral perspective is if somebody gets shot in front of you and your family's in the building behind you, you're probably running the fuck away. That'd be my guess. If you don't hear it, he didn't do that. I don't know why you're saying he did it. He didn't do that.
Yeah, if you go to
also, it's not two 15-year-olds. This is his dad.
Okay, fine. Whatever. His dad. So your son gets shot, and you don't think it's reasonable to check and see if they're still alive?
Well, if it was my side of me, we wouldn't be walking out into an active fucking war zone with shit in our hands.
And if your son got shot, would you check if he's alive?
I don't know. With my family behind me, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
Do you think it would be unreasonable for someone to check if their son is
I don't know what somebody would think of in this situation. Losing a son is tragic. Having the son and father die in a fucking in a thing would be even more tragic. So I'm not sure. But I wouldn't be out here with my kid like, hey, let's go check out the IDF with shit in our hands and see what happens. That's fucking retarded.
Yeah, you wouldn't be in that situation because you live in America. You don't live in the West Bank or Gaza. So me and you would never be in the situation in the first place. We don't have that misfortune of being in that situation. It's like easy to say like, yeah, I can't imagine myself ever being so poor I have to steal because we live in a first world country.
I can't imagine myself being so poor that's incredibly easy to imagine.
Okay, whatever. You get the point of the analogy. Is that this would never apply to us. This can't happen to us because we live in America.
What is even happening? Look at the cut here. You said that cut in the Flower Massacre, you said that footage was unacceptable? Wait a second.
Well, I said the Flower Massacre footage is unacceptable?
Or you said that because the editor said it was cut. Wait, does he actually... Wait. Does he actually get a jacket off this kid? Did he actually do it?
We don't see it.
Hold on. The father's not wearing anything. He's wearing a t-shirt in the first picture. The kid looks like he's wearing something. He gets shot and dropped. The dad, I guess, comes back. It looks like, I don't know what he's doing. He's going for it. He clearly doesn't have a jacket on. Then we get our cut, but since it's Pallywood, Alex loves cuts, so that doesn't mean anything. Then when we come back up and we look out the window here, I don't know if he removed anything from the kid, but now the guy has a jacket on? So did he get something from the body? Is that what we literally see happening in the video right fucking here?
It's not really clear. Let me see. Let me look at it again. So we have is the kid even wearing a jacket? Let me go back and watch it. So the kid is wearing
I want to say it seems as though they are two different people. The guy in the first, the second person in the first clip is a lot bigger and.
It's a different jacket. So
the second one is wearing pants as well.
Oh, okay, so it might be a whole different person then. We got a whole third person involved in.
Right, but we can still see, like, let's just grant that premise. We can still see this person being shot. There we go. He's shot. That's it. We can see that part. And then I agree with you. This is all evidence I provided. Then you could definitely make a convincing argument that, like, hey, maybe there's something deceptive going on here. But when you combine that with the larger context of the Amnesty International report, where they say that, again, they interviewed 12 people, 10 of them eyewitnesses, including first responders and local residents. And also they looked at verified 19 videos and 4 photos and examined.
Not 19 videos of this particular incident. We're just looking at this incident.
Well, we don't know how many of those videos were related to this incident. This is just the video we see. But if we're looking, again, if we're looking at a larger picture, we see, unless we're saying that Amnesty International is lying.
I do believe they lie about Israel. Yes, I do.
Okay, so.
But that's fine. I don't have to trust them. I can read stuff about them, and there are times when they're critical of Israel, and their evidence is really strong and really good. Amnesty International has made good criticisms of IDF conduct in the field. Just because I don't trust them means I verify the sourcing and the reporting of their stuff. It doesn't mean I say everything they say is a lie. That would be fucking retarded. I just wouldn't trust anything that's out of hand without verifying more of the information myself.
Okay, I appreciate you acknowledging that. So you're saying, like, what kind of evidence would you like to see? We have a video of someone getting shot. We have their report, which says that verified 19 videos and 4 photos and interviewed a bunch of people. What kind of details would you like to see at this point?
Well, I have literally nothing. You don't even know why these people are out here. I have no idea what is happening here.
I'm still waiting for an argument for why it was unjust. Or why it was indiscriminate. Alex, I wanted you to actually give, like, the argument, not just saying Amnesty International investigation, but like, give the argument.
And there were 3 people involved here, not just 2 as well. Who the fuck is this third person?
So yeah, I'll explain. So let me answer Tom's question. The reason it's indiscriminate is because we have, if we just take what we see at face value in this report, in this video, is we have a 15-year-old going outside, not posing a threat, or at least doesn't seem like he's posing a threat, and getting murked by the IDF. That's indiscriminate because they failed to distinguish whether he was a civilian or militant. It seems like he's not a militant. It seems like he's a civilian.
Why would you assume that?
Because in this report, they didn't talk about every single person that was killed during this whole thing. There was obviously some militants that were killed, but the reason they're mentioning this person is because he was a civilian.
They don't know that. The family said he was a civilian. Why the fuck would you trust them?
Okay, fine. If we just go back through this report, let me see. I believe they said.
Oh, Jesus.
That he was a civilian.
Wait. Oh no. Hold on. Somebody linked me this, but I haven't checked this yet. Is it?
Also,
somebody translate this for me. Where are my Arabic speakers? This doesn't mean he was a Hamas martyr, does it? Well, I'm being linked this, but I don't know if this is even the same fucking person. Or prove to me that this is even what you're talking about. This kid is literally Hamas, and Hamas claimed as much.
Where?
Oh, it's the same name. I'm linking you.
We can see a photo of the kid, so we should be able to actually check if he looks the same.
The October 19th death of 15-year-old Taha Ibrahim Mohammed Mamid in the Palestinian town of Turk Arm was the subject of a November 18th article and video report by Sky News reporter Mark Stone and led with the following incendiary headline. So he's the kid on the bottom left. Okay, I'll take your word for it, but let's see. What is this?
Hamas affiliation of slain Palestinian teen. What's the evidence that he was affiliated with Hamas?
Additionally, the Sky News viewers and readers aren't told is that Taha was a child soldier, a terrorist affiliated with Hamas, the group which announced his death and acknowledged it took place during confrontations with the IDF. Do I have somebody here that speaks Arabic? Oh, well, are we face blind, boys? Hold on. Is this the same kid? I'm giving you 2 different pictures.
It seems similar, but honestly, like a lot of.
There's the one from Amnesty International. Here's the Hamas claiming credit for it.
Well, where's actually Hamas claiming credit for it?
I think that Twitter, is an account where Hamas posts their martyrs that have died fighting the IDF.
Which Twitter? because I see a claim in this random website I've never heard of, but I don't see any proof. It was we know supposed yesterday stones failed delete. I posted the post just proven. So yeah, where's the post? Like where's the handle? Because it's gonna matter if it was like, did you link it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this guy is creating a Twitter thread, and it's saying Hamas announced martyrs since October 7th. Here's the thread. Can't vouch for when these individuals actually died. And then it's a bunch of pictures posted. This guy's a senior fellow at the Washington Institute, visiting scholar. Brandy is you, founder jihadology_net.
Let me take a quick look at this.
So the name of the Twitter is book Your Sons Are at Your Service, Tunisia's Missionaries of Jihad.
Yeah, I want to just quickly pull this up myself. I'm having a hard time believing this.
To the masses of our, okay, here's the full translation via our colleagues at Camera Arabic. To the masses of our mighty Palestinian people and the free persons of our Islamic and Arab nation, the Islamic resistance movement, Hamas, mourns its martyred hero, Ta Mohammed, who ascended on Thursday, 19/10/2023 at dawn by the fire of the occupation in the Ner Shams refugee camp east of Tulkarm during the confrontations of the Al-Aqsa flood campaign.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me just pull this up. Okay, I want to see this actual Twitter and I have to do it on my phone. October 18. This just seems like a random person. I don't know what their credibility is. Is there any hard evidence that he was Hamas? I just see a random dude who seems to have a pattern of like just posting children and claiming they're Hamas. I don't know what I don't know what credibility this person has and what evidence he's presenting. This is literally the epitome of heresy. It's just some person making a claim with no evidence. Someone who has no credibility. I mean, what's the credibility that this person is saying is true? Seems like some random person on Twitter. Random people on Twitter lie all the time.
Okay, but the anonymous IDF soldier, you're going to hang your hat on and swear to God that he's definitely giving you...
You're talking about two different incidents, but yes, I do think the Guardian has more credibility than a random person on Twitter.
Okay.
So, do you think this is a credible person? A random person on Twitter?
I know the actual answer for how this could save you, but I'm not going to tell you. But there is one way that this might...
Well, I'm not even interested in that. I'm just asking you, do you think this is a credible witness?
I don't know where these postings come from. Or where Hamas posts any of these things at. I'd have to dig into this to find out.
Yeah, because this... Okay, let me try it one more time to look at this. So, this just seems like, again, a random person. He doesn't provide any evidence. He just posts photos of guys and says that, I guess, they're Hamas. There would need to be at least some amount of evidence, or, if this person had a lot of credibility, that would also make me second guess that.
My guess is all civilians dying in the West Bank are considered martyrs by Hamas. Yeah, that might actually be what's happening. It might be that they'll claim any person that dies is like a martyr against the IDF. That is possible.
Was presented. And on the other hand, you have Amnesty International. And also, it's part of a larger report that talks about other people that were killed. So unless the claim is every single one of those people was Hamas, I think we need to have at least some discernment between just taking what some random no-name Twitter person says. Not no-name.
You can't say random no-name because you're literally quoting a nameless soldier as part of your sourcing for an earlier thing. So it's to say no-name.
Well, I do think that in interview, so I think the key thing that you're forgetting is that it's a soldier that did an interview with the Guardian. So I think the Guardian, typically with these news stations, they don't just put every single fucking story they hear. They typically take steps to verify the story, or at least they think it's credible, because if not, it's a very big embarrassment for them, right? I think the Guardian's pretty well respected. So I don't think they're just hurts. I think if it was just some random nobody that they didn't have any reason to believe was credible, they would just not run with the story. It's a horrible look for them if they get exposed. Turns out not to be the case. So I do think the Guardian is much, much more credible than some random Twitter account.
Okay, it's not a random Twitter guy. The guy's name is Aaron Y. Yellen, who is his expertise is Arab and Islamic politics and terrorism, and he's a senior fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. That's his profile.
One thing it says that he's Colombia. I don't even know if this is the same point. Do we know that this is his real account?
No, maybe it could all be fake. This part is all fake.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, do we know that? Look, I'm not.
It's a guy that took his name and just posts on a verified account that he paid for just to fucking meme it up and pretend to be this same guy. Yeah.
You don't think there's a whole bunch of people that are memeing on both sides and who are trying to essentially push a narrative that they have no evidence for? I mean, again, like if there's some evidence that we can see for why he was Hamas, like anything at all, then that would definitely support your point significantly. I just see a guy on Twitter posting a photo of a kid saying he's Hamas.
Okay. All right.
Am I wrong about anything that I just said?
Well, I'm guessing is that he's pulling this information from somewhere else. I don't know where he's pulling the information from. Probably some publication by either the Palestinian Authority or by Hamas.
Yeah, so you think he's pulling the information from somewhere else? Then couldn't we apply that same thing to the Guardian as they're verifying the information somehow else? Like we got to have a consistency.
There's not about verification. I'm just saying he's probably, I don't know where he's pulling it from, but okay. Listen, I gotta give me your final 1 minute. I gotta take off. I'm already an hour past my fucking time. So,
okay. Let me see what's the fuck. There's so much more shit I want to get through. I mean. Are you familiar with the Telegram group called 72 Virgins?
Nope.
Okay, well, let me just give you a quick summary. I promise it won't take too long. So there's Telegram group called 72 Virgins where they post video after video of Palestinians being killed. It's typically very gory and it's like kind of inflammatory types of comments like, look at these cockroaches being murdered, blah, blah, blah. One post read, burning their mother. You won't believe the video we got. You can hear their bones crush. We'll post it right away. Get ready. So photos of Palestinian men captured by IDF in the strip and the bodies of terrorists being captured, exterminating the roaches, exterminating the Hamas rats, share this beauty, stuff like that. So here's what's interesting. Israel, this is a pretty like horrendous fucking Telegram group. Israel denied having any associations with this Telegram. Then Haaretz did a big expose, and then the story changed to it was operated by members of a department of the Israeli Defense Forces Operation Directorate. This is what the IDF is saying, that it was operated by members of the Department of the Israeli Defense Forces Operation Directorate, which is like essentially the PSYOP unit. So if all of that is true, and I'll link you the article if you want to share with your chat or whatever, if all of that is true, would that not be at least some evidence of a culture of, at the very least, not giving a shit about killing innocent people?
Yeah, if that fully anonymous Telegram is right, then yeah, it would be.
Okay, well, I shared the article. Take a look at that. I've looked at it. It's actually super comprehensive. You see photos, you see posts, you see everything. If you could share with your chat, that'd be good, because I think it would paint a picture. But yeah, I mean, we don't have enough time to get to it. We can probably do it another time if you're up. But yeah, I think that's also pretty strong shit.
Okay. All right. Well, any final thoughts, Tom and what?
Should we do a quick closing statement?
If you want to, go for it.
Yeah. So while I do love and respect Destiny, I think the problem is that he's starting with already a premise of that, like, hey, IDF probably wouldn't do something like this. Either IDF would not do something like this, or IDF would not do something, probably would not do something like this. And then when you show him evidence after evidence, he's able to say, well, you know, it doesn't work because of this and this and that. And again, I agree that if you're starting with that premise, the IDF wouldn't do it. You can find a hole in any argument. It's a war. There's a fog of war. There's not going to be 100% perfect information on the spot, right? If you're starting with that premise, but if you go into it with a neutral premise, and this is all assuming my last point would be complete mute if it turns out that this random Twitter guy is actually correct about this guy being a Hamas, right? That would discredit the very last piece of evidence I showed, but would not discredit the other evidence I've showed. And essentially, it comes down to like, okay, well, how much evidence do you want to see? I mean, if you set the burden of proof so high that like, hey, I need to see like every possible piece of evidence, I need to see this person's obituary, I need to see the video of it happening, then you can never be proven wrong. But again, so that's kind of my perspective. I do appreciate Destiny and the moderators for having this debate. I think it was a lot of fun, and I think we got to cover a lot of shit.
All right. Nothing has made me an Israeli simp more than investigating the incredibly weak evidence that pro-Palestinian people present. We are being told time and time again that the genocide is happening, apartheid is happening, that the Israeli military has a policy of indiscriminately murdering civilians over and over and over again. Yet every time we look for video evidence, it is the most shoddily shot thing in the universe. The stories are all convoluted as fuck. The evidence is scant at best. And you would expect that if this is something that was actively happening in one of the most recorded, most monitored, most criticized, most investigated areas of the fucking world at this point, that we would have like dozens or hundreds of stories of these things actually happening, and not the most shoddy videos with the weirdest explanations attached to whatsoever. That would be my assumption, but
Yeah, when you're in the war zone, sometimes you don't get the best quality videos. You want to do? Do you want to do a final?
Are you guys
final,
wanting
do you want to do a final
to
part of this
round
at some
4
point
tomorrow?
in a few days?
If you want to do a final one of videos, again, just send me ahead of time one story, one thing, and I'll go through it like front to back, and I'll give you like a whole how to actually investigate a story and figure out what's actually happened.
All my sources ahead of time if you prefer that. That's
just on one event, one incident, and one incident. Yeah.
Sure. There's plenty more that I want to get through, including the Telegram group, which I think is.
Well, apparently, a story's released that Telegram group operated without authorization from the IDF, so that's already completely.
That's initially what was said, but then the IDF admitted that it was part of their PSYOP unit. So it was admitted that the people who created this Telegram group were part of the.
They were part of them, but it was without like approval from the IDF. Initially, they denied involvement, but after an internal investigation was done, by the way, which is the IDF investigating itself, which, by the way, you said you didn't trust, and you said they would never expose stuff like this. But after they did an internal investigation, they said, oh, some of our people were involved in this, but it was without official approval from the IDF.
That only happened after the Haaretz expose.
Okay, but they could have just said, oh, no, this doesn't happen. We're not going to investigate ourselves.
Well, if there's a massive expose that shows that they're responsible for it, then at that point they have to spin the best story. They can't just keep saying.
If they would have investigated themselves and said nothing was wrong, would you have said, "Oh, well, I guess then they must have been nothing, and the expose was wrong"?
No, most likely I would try to again look at data and information. And again, in the article that I linked, you can see photos, videos. You see a lot of really detailed shit in there. So very clearly, this Telegram group was taking place. Haaretz provides, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's a very long article. Haaretz provides evidence that it was run by the IDF, and then ultimately the IDF, after that information comes out, says, well, yeah, but it was, it was part of this unit. It's not really like, without like the main authorization, blah, blah, blah. Even granting that premise is true, that there's a unit in IDF that's responsible for PSYOP and informational warfare, and they thought this was a good idea. That in of itself would, I think, suggest that there's a massive issue when it comes to culture with this kind of thing.
Okay, all right. This can be the thing we dig into, or something if you want next time. But okay, all right. Any final words from Tom or Isaac?
No, have a good night.
Isaac in moderation.
All right, love you guys.
I didn't hear what you said right there, but it was good moderating with you.
Have fun. Peace out.
Appreciate
Yeah, for sure. Good.
Okay, I don't know if I can do this again. God, this went so long. Okay, I love you guys. I don't know. Again, I try not to over simp for a particular side, but like if these are the strongest stories, it has to be. Like, the IDF has to be the most moral fucking military in the entire fucking universe if these are the best stories that we're getting from immoral conduct. If this is the best, or if this is the worst that the IDF has done, it must be literally a fighting force sent from fucking Yahweh himself, okay, to conduct themselves in the most moral way possible. Because I would expect to see fucked up shit. The reason why I say, like, yeah, they're probably war crimes. I'm sure there's been fucked up, horrible shit. I'm sure there must be, just because of the size of the conflict. But, like, holy Christ, if this is it, like, Jesus